Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Back in the real studio, I got to say that the Tommy Moffitt interview yesterday, really loved the reaction from people. I knew you all would love it. And I knew after hearing him on other podcasts, like this guy he not only speaks to the fan base, he speaks to what is needed here, right? Like you could feel it immediately. This guy has all the tools and the mindset that I think has been lacking at A&M for a little bit. And I'm sure there's been some good strength and conditioning coaches that have come by, but this is great. This guy's got the best resume, the best talking points, and the best be about it, right? He is about that life. So I was really happy with what I was reading afterwards on the boards. Those of you just really got down with the plan. And look, we've talked about it for a little bit. The direction of the program has felt pretty darn good since Coach Elko took over. The apathy that started probably last year, with some spikes in here, seems to be completely gone. Now they got to go do it. And that's where January, February, March really comes into play, get you ready for that spring game, set a tone. And I think Tommy Moffitt's certainly doing that. That is Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of morning by going to texags.com/coffee. Great coffee. I just had a sip a moment ago. Almost made me like I was like a big chug, and I had a little chuckle to it. But no OB today. So this TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations will have a different vibe to it because I won't have anybody to go back and forth with. So no OB today, but we are going to have a pretty big fish on the program here in about, 7-8 minutes or so. Michael Lombardi, you know him from, why am I looking at the wrong camera? Michael Lombardi, you know him from the NFL Network back in the day, obviously an NFL GM. He's got a book out, so we'll chit-chat with Mike Lombardi here in a few minutes. But before we do that, good old Joel Lunardi, sorry, I was about to call him Lombardi, currently has A&M as a 10 seed. And my question to you all at 979-693-1150, how do they solidify that and maybe more? Because you know the schedule that's ahead. What do the Ags have to do the rest of the way to certainly put themselves in a position to not only get into the tournament, which that's the bare minimum, right? For this team that was number 15 in the country when the preseason started, right? They should be a for sure. They're not a for sure. When you're a 10 seed, you're not a for sure. So what do they got to do? And I think a couple things come to play. The fast starts are certainly important, right? They have to have faster starts in these games, especially in these SEC games. We've seen some slow starts outside of the Kentucky game, which seems to be an outlier, right? The rest of them have been very close, very slow starts. If you're down 7 to 20 points, it's not ideal to start off a game. So they have to do that. But let's go ahead and call it what it is. They also need to finish strong, right? Like they have to be able to – there's been a lot of close games that A&M has not hit the game-winning shot. They play in so many close games. When we have Logan on the show, like it's when I tell you some of the numbers of close games compared to other teams in the SEC, you'll think they're close, but A&M's ahead, right? And I just kind of looked at a couple of the teams that were close to A&M in the pecking order, right? And how many close SEC games they've had as opposed to A&M. So we'll get into that here in a moment. But they've got to close out games They've got to start games out fast. If you want to make the tournament, those are two things that have to happen immediately, and it has to happen on Saturday when they take on Florida, a Florida team that I believe has won. Is it now 4 in a row, Nick? Does that sound right? 4 in a row, and they just beat Kentucky yesterday. So this game is not a gimme. It's not an easy one at all. So obviously, I want them to have fast starts, and the word fast is going to be a theme you're going to hear quite a few times here on the show. And that's going to be push the pace offensively. I've been stressing it all week. When I watched that game this past weekend against Ole Miss, my thought was they're really good when they're running the break, right? Because they can throw it up to Solomon Washington. I keep looking at the wrong camera. Nick, you can yell at me when that happens.
David, it's okay. It's like it's giving you, or we're trying to make like a candid look. You know, you're looking the other way. It's a good look. That's what I'm going for. I'm not trying to throw you off or anything.
Okay, all good. Oh, like they do that like on Real Sports.
Yeah,
that's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Usually there's a technical director, on the floor that'll point at the camera they need to look at and not just look at the. I'm sorry, was I complaining there? I apologize.
Okay, my bad.
All good. But all right, so to revisit, for them to make this tournament run, fast starts, push the pace offensively. They've got to. Like, Solo finishes those alley-oops. Boots is amazing in transition. Henry's amazing in transition. They are so good when they push the tempo. And then when they are not able to, let's say they push the tempo, but there's not a basket opportunity. They're so much better when they score early. Buzz went through some of those stats earlier on this week where, when they settle for those last-second shots, they're always a bad shot. Now, if you shoot a 3 too early, I tend to think that's a bad shot too. I want to make sure that it's in the flow of the offense. Those are 2. How about the number 3 and number 4 offensive player to be more efficient? I don't know who that is, right? I don't know. It could be Boots on a particular night. It could be Henry Coleman on a particular night. It could be Anderson Garcia on a particular night. But I think you know what you're going to get from Wade. They got to have a number 2. And for the conversation's sake, let's say that number 2 is Boots Radford. And Callie had a really good stat in the notes earlier that I think they're 9-1 all time when Boots scores 20 or more. I got to revisit that stat. It's on here. But that is something to consider. But I'm talking more beyond that because we went through some stats earlier in the week as well of when it's just those 2 dudes scoring, when it's just Wade and it's just Boots, the kind of offense that they have. And that's not a good thing, right? Like they need others involved. Sure, Solo can pop into it, no doubt. Andy can pop into it. Henry, absolutely. He's got flashes of being the 1, the 2, the 3 scorer. But I think if you get some efficient scoring from your 3rd and 4th guy, efficient, good enough. Doesn't have to be dominant. You got to be good there offensively from your 3rd and 4th scorer. And also, you got to be better from the line. What are they, 69%? This team is a better free throw shooting team than they're showing. You know how I know that? Because apparently they hit them at practice, and they did it last year. And they did it at the end of 22, right? That, to me, there's something going on in these stressful situations that even Wade Taylor is missing a couple free throws for him. So you got to hit the free throws. You got to win home games because you've got some home games left down the stretch. You've got to do that. And unfortunately, we haven't seen enough of that. They've got to win these games. The Ole Miss games at home, the LSU games at home. You also have to win. What else? We got Florida this upcoming game. You've got 2 times against Tennessee, so obviously that's one. And that goes to my next point. You got to take 1 or 2 from the big guys. You got a lot of big guys left, a lot of quad 1s left. You've got to win some of those games against those quad 1 teams. You've got to beat Tennessee. You got to split with them at least, right? Take 1 from Alabama, right? You still got Ole Miss to go on the road. You want to get that one back, right? You've got to get those wins. And you've got a big opportunity this weekend, not necessarily quad 1, but a team that's a high riser that is taking your shine in Florida this upcoming weekend, right? You've got Missouri coming up again, but that's the least of your, you should go to on the road and win that game. You should. That hasn't necessarily happened, but you absolutely should be doing that. So here you've got push the pace offensively, right? You've got to start fast, finish strong, and you've got to win the home games and take one from the big guys. All right, let's chit-chat a little bit here. Our next interview is presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Academy Sports and Outdoors is your college football tailgate destination and official sports good and outdoor retailer of the SEC. Stop by your local Academy store or academy.com and gear up for game day today. So we don't have him just yet, but we will have him here in a moment. That's what Nick is telling me. So we should have Michael Lombardi here on the program any moment now. Nick, are we having him on Zoom? Is that what the situation is? All right, awesome. We'll get to him. A couple of the storylines that we're going to get into with Michael Lombardi. First off, he's got a book out, Football Done Right, setting the record straight on the coaches, the players, and history of the NFL. We'll chit-chat with him about that throughout his extensive time in the NFL, which includes, I think, 3 Super Bowls. All right, so we'll talk to him about his new book, but we will also talk to him about all the current storylines in football. Our next guest has been an NFL general manager, an NFL analyst, 3-time Super Bowl champion, and the author of that book I just told you about, Football Done Right, setting the record straight on the coaches, the players, and the history of the NFL. Thanks to our friends at Academy and Sports and Outdoors. Here's Michael Lombardi. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's good to be here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us here on the program. So just tell me a little bit about how this book came about.
I mean, this book really started 40 years ago when I would get on the team bus in San Francisco and sit behind Coach Walsh, and he'd be doodling Clark Shaughnessy plays from the single wing era and the wing T era. And I had no idea who Clark Shaughnessy was or what he did and the history of the game. And he would ask me to go call NFL Films to get tape on those plays and offenses. And so it started a journey of me trying to learn the history of the game, from the coaching trees to everything about football. And everybody I've worked with, from Bill Walsh to Bill Belichick to everybody, have always been a big part of wanting to learn the history of the game. And this book to me is a reflection of the lessons that I've learned, and hopefully trying to help people understand that the past is as much a part of the present as anything.
Over your left shoulder, I see a great picture there. Bill Walsh, Joe Montana, the legends, right? Yeah. What do they mean to you in your career?
I mean, look, I have been very, very lucky in my life. I've been able to work for Walsh, saw Joe Montana, work for Belichick, saw Tom Brady, Ronnie Lott. I mean, I worked for Al Davis for 10 years. I'm the only human being. I don't even know if I'm the only human being, period, but I'm the only one I know alive that went to a Super Bowl with all 3 of them. So for me, they mean everything. And Coach Walsh is probably one of the greatest influences in my life, because every day I hear his voice in my head about leadership. He started me on a journey of leadership. And as I drove him around in the car, and he asked me about Tom Peters, and I had no idea who Tom Peters was either, and so much for that Hofstra education that I got. Anyway, I knew nothing about him. And he said, you need to go read his book about In Search of Excellence with he and Bob Waterford. And I did. I went to the Stanford bookstore. This is 84, and there was no Amazon or that. And that started me trying to understand how to lead, as much as how to coach.
This is a wonderful perspective there. So Tom Brady, Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, all these superstars that you have been around and were front row to it. Who's the best of all time?
Oh, boy, that's a hard question. I mean, they're all the same in the sense that they all had an unbelievable ability to have competitive stamina. I mean, Jerry Rice ran routes till the end. And, Joe Montana was an incredible, whether he was playing basketball in the pool in Sierra College during our breaks between practices, or whether he was on the field, the competitive fiber in all of them, and Brady's ability to stay within the routine and not get outside. It's hard for me to say. I would say probably the one player that to me that defined everything was Ronnie Lott of the 49ers. Lott was everything you want in a player: tough, great teammate, set the tone. He was as much responsible for the culture in San Francisco as anybody, because he drove the culture.
Talking to Michael Lombardi here on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Let's talk a little bit. I don't know if the timelines match up, Michael, but Gary Kubiak, a guy that's dear to our hearts here at Texas A&M, coach of the Texans, obviously won a Super Bowl with the Broncos. Did you spend much time with Gary, and just looking back at what he's been able to do in his career?
Well, I mean, I've never worked with Gary or been with Gary, but one of my dear friends at the 49ers, Ray Rhodes, and Gary were close friends, and so I've always known Gary for a long time. And And his ability, what I admire about Gary is his ability to take from a player to a coach, the ability to take an offense and expand it and use what Walsh would call divergent thinking, taking an existing idea and making it better, right? And so what he and Shanahan were able to accomplish with the outside zone, then building the bootlegs off the outside zone and really making the game quarterback friendly. I mean, they've made the game quarterback friendly, whether it was Matt Schaub, whether it was, Peyton Manning at the end of his career, whether it was John Elway, who was at the height of his career. They always have made the game quarterback friendly. And I think that was really important. And winning a Super Bowl with Flacco, going to the Super Bowl with Flacco, that year, I mean, we played them in 14. They were as good as anybody. So to me, Kubiak was a true innovator. And I think that as a player, I think he understood how to take the game to another level, which is what I talk a lot about in the book, is how to take existing ideas and make them better with some of these coaches, whether it's Red Blake at Army, whether it's Sid Gilman when he started the passing game, whether it was Bill Walsh with the West Coast offense, or Paul Brown just developing the technology.
Talking to Michael Lombardi here on TexAgs Radio. So one of the talking points that I'm reading through, and I'm curious your thoughts on here, the most unforgettable games out there. A couple years ago, that first Bills-Chiefs game where the quarterbacks were just dueling left and right. Obviously, I think about the unfortunate Oilers-Buffalo Bills game of '92. Just some insight to these games.
Well, I write about it in the book. I think the Oilers might have been the most talented team ever in the history of the NFL. Mike Holloway, I think, belongs in the Hall of Fame for just assembling that collection of talent. But what that team proves to us is this incredibly stupid notion that one player wins a title, right? Like, that team lacked the infrastructure from a coaching standpoint, whether it was Pardee, whether it was Jerry Glanville, whomever. I mean, they just could never get everything aligned as a team. But in terms of talent, I mean, my Lord, there was no team more talented than them. I just, to me, I marvel at that. And that lead that they blew in the second half up in Buffalo, I sat in my house in Broadview Heights, Ohio. We were competing against the Oilers. I was at the Browns at the time, and I couldn't believe what was happening because they were so good. I mean, they had players upon players. And so that game, to me, was really symbolic of when you don't have mental and physical toughness of your team, you can't win those games.
Talking to Michael Lombardi here on TexAgs Radio. I don't remember. I feel that you were pretty high on Johnny Manziel coming into the draft. Can you just give me some thoughts on what you thought?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we know how that story played out.
Well, when you watch Johnny play football, you have to be high on him. Where you were concerned about Johnny was all the off-the-field stuff, which transposed itself during his career. He didn't love football. There wasn't that competitive stamina. He wasn't willing to put the work in. When I was in New England, we brought Manziel in the same day we brought Jimmy Garoppolo in and had them both in the room at the same time. And I think you got the sense that Johnny was like the stardom, but maybe not the work that's required in the stardom. I mean, Kobe Bryant, loved the work. I think all these people that I've been around that are great love the work. It wasn't that they wanted the accolades. They wanted the work. Brady, the process. It's the same thing with coaches. Belichick, he loves the process. And so I think that's what Johnny missed. In terms of, one of the things we learned is character does create the player. It does create the player. And if you don't have work ethic and you don't love what you're doing, no matter how much talent you have, you're going to fall short.
Why is professional football, the NFL, and really college football, because we do a lot of that, football in general, such a part of our culture, Michael?
Because it combines all the things we love. It's chess on grass with physicality. It has everything that we love in terms of watching. And when you add that betting element where we can all bet on the game, it adds more excitement to it. And so football is truly chess on grass, 11 pieces moving around the board, the strategy that's involved that we could talk about, that a lot of people don't really truly understand, that we talk about. And it's a game that's hard to learn. And the public is so behind in terms of learning the game that their appetite to learn more increases every single day. And I think that's why it's fast, it moves, it's once a week, so that's not getting overexposed. Every game matters, We don't have load management. We don't have to worry about that, And I think, to me, it's just it becomes part of who we are because it invokes a competitive spirit in all of us combined with great teamwork.
If Mahomes wins a third Super Bowl this early in his career, where do you put him in the pecking order of these QBs?
Well, look, this one's interesting because this one isn't Mahomes. This one's Mahomes being egoless, right? They're not winning because Mahomes is great. He's only averaging 7 yards per pass attempt, which is really low. Doesn't even qualify you to get into the playoffs typically. But he's modified his game. He's changed who he is. He's not looking for stats. He's looking for wins, which I admire completely. I mean, look, this is a kid that has unique talent, and he has drive and work ethic to make that talent go. I think it's all that. He'll be in the top. I mean, it'll be him and Brady fighting for who's number one. If Montana didn't have a back injury and could have kept going, he might have been there. But unfortunately, he suffered that back injury, which really curtailed his career. But Mahomes, to me, his ability to play with this competitive drive and willingness to change his game. The Chiefs are saying, we don't need you to score 45. We need you to score 20 and get 10 assists out. Not many stars want to do that.
Let me ask you about the Cowboys. We got a huge Cowboys audience here. Last week, Herm Edwards on this show said, take off the star, make them earn that star. How would you fix the Cowboys?
I think you have to fix the mindset of their fan base, right? I think that everybody thinks they're this incredibly talented team, and I think they think they underachieved. I think they overachieved this year. I don't think they're as talented as people think they are. Their offensive line isn't the same offensive line. Tony Pollard was nowhere near the same running back that he was 2 years ago. It's not even close. I thought Dak played really better. Defensively, they lost their best corner early in the season. They lost their linebacker. They lost a lot of pieces, and it was really kind of a challenge for them. So to me, I don't think it's about earning the star. I think it's about trying to get the players to play at a higher level, increase the talent base of their team, and really improve the defensive personnel, because I think they were trying to rob Peter to pay Paul with that defense, and it kind of didn't really work out for them. And so I think you have to be realistic and say, you know what, we need more players. We need to get better. And they've got some real cap situations ahead of them. They got to sign Parsons, have to sign Lamb. They're going to have to do Dak's contract moving forward. So it's going to really require the art of team building to get this Cowboy team back on track. How
about the Lions? You see them back in the mix for the next couple of years?
Yeah, I do. Well, I mean, look, they're only going to get better on defense, and that was their downfall. Their defense let them down in terms of not being able to get stops, critical stops. Their physicality is impressive. Their mental toughness is impressive. But I think the Packers are improving too. So the competitions always rise, and no one's going to take them lightly anymore. But that offensive line, look, the one thing we know about football, from the time it started in Ralph Hayes' car dealership in Canton, Ohio, till the current time today, it's always about who controls the line. Who has the best offensive and defensive lines? That's typically the team that wins.
Michael, last one for you.
The Lions have that.
Last one for you. The Texans, C.J. Stroud and company, how much staying power do you think they have there in the AFC South?
Well, they're only going to get better. I mean, especially if their quarterback who works hard and has an appetite for success continues. It's all up to them. Vince Lombardi has a great saying. He said that the greatest reward for doing is the opportunity to do more. And I think they have a great opportunity to do more.
All right, the book is called Football Done Right, Setting the Record Straight on the Coaches, Players, and History of the NFL. Michael, they can get the book anywhere, right? Amazon, bookstores.
Anywhere, online, anywhere, your favorite bookstore. Ryan Holiday's Bookshop in Bastrop. Was that the name of the town right there on the way to Austin, outside of Houston? Right there. Yeah, there you go. Get it right there.
Awesome, my friend. Thank you so much. Let's do it again, all right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Michael Lombardi there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Appreciate his conversation. The book, Football Done Right, Setting the Record Straight on the Coaches, the Players, and History in the NFL. And that interview brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, your college football tailgate destination and official sports good and outdoor retailer of the SEC. Stop by your local Academy store or academy.com and gear up for game day today. All right, we'll hit a break. I know we went long there. Apologies to the zone there, but that was too good. We'll come back with more here on TexAgs Radio. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio. The difference is real. They can write any form of insurance, and they're built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for, doing the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. Their headquarters is on Highway 6 right here in College Station. You can call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com. It is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. No Olin. He's on assignment. That's what I'll say. He's got some stuff going on. He'll be back tomorrow. I appreciate that interview with Michael Lombardi. It was good times, but we're kind of late on the clock. Got to apologize about that, but it was a good interview. Hopefully, if you missed it, it'll be on TexAgs.com here shortly. Let's go around the room and check in with the people. We go behind the glass, and we kind of say hi for the first time, even though he spoke earlier, to Nick.
So, yeah, I spoke out of turn.
I didn't get to say your last name.
Go ahead.
Let me start it again. Let's go behind the glass. Say hi to Nick Savage.
Howdy.
Well, that was a different howdy from you.
Thanks.
That was like, I don't know.
I've already spoken, like you said, so it's a little different. But
you could still bring something to the show. Bring something to the table, buddy.
I'm trying to. Well, we've been polling our radio audience a lot lately, and hopefully y'all follow us on TexAgs Radio.
You worked that
Twitter.
poll.
Yeah, we hey now.
What?
We asked, and I'd like to get your grade here, but we asked them, what grade would you give Coach Elko for his work on the recruiting front so far? 66% of our audience says A.
Yep.
30% says B. And the two Longhorn fans who follow us both voted C and D.
How do you know they voted that?
Well,
you can
because
see?
it's a 1% on C, D, and F. So
they gave us
probably
an F?
Longhorn. Yeah, I mean.
Are you kidding me? Those guys are nice. The two guys that watch all the time.
No. Not talking about Sandman and those guys.
Randy
This is on the
Etheridge?
radio. Maybe, I don't know, but just who cares what they voted? What would you give Coach Elko on his recruiting so far?
I'm going to
include portal and high school.
I can?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to give him an A.
Fair enough.
And here's my why behind it. When there's a coaching change, there's turmoil, and you lose guys left and right. Kalen DeBoer is going through it. He's kind of made some growth since taking over, and we'll see what happens in the spring. But when you lose a coach, regardless of how bad these last 2 years have gone, 12 wins in 2 years, it shouldn't be the level that they've been able to do. Would I like a higher high school class? Absolutely. If they get Terry Bussey, I'm going to be fine. If they have Bronny did allude to they were maybe working on some other things out there. So I'm putting them at an A. If they were to lose Bussey, would I maybe A minus, B, like in that range? But if you consider the transfer portal addressing many, many needs, I'm good with an A there. An F is just stupid. Whoever put the F there is stupid.
Yep.
Estúpido.
Just trolls.
Just trolling it. Anything else, Nick?
That's all from me.
All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Caitlin Torn in the house. Hello, Caitlin.
Hey.
Hey. Hey, girl.
Hey.
What's up?
Nothing much. We've got a big Friday tomorrow in Aggie land. We've got women's tennis at the University of Miami.
You know women's tennis is really good at tennis. Did you know that?
Really good.
They're like
I was reading it this morning.
Amazing.
Really, really good. We've also got number 14 men's tennis makes its first appearance of the spring at home on Friday, 12 p.m. against SMU. They have a perfect 4-0 record this far with 3 wins over power conference opponents. So try and go out and support that if you can. Track and field is hosting the Charlie Thomas Invitational on Friday, and men and women's swimming and diving face SMU on Friday.
Yep, good stuff there. I appreciate you there, Caitlin. If you want to be part of the conversation this morning, did I say this? I don't know. The whole show feels a little bit off. You can do it. And there's no OB here. I didn't have a formal intro. We had an interview mid-segment. The whole thing's a little off.
You haven't even done the Fargo spot yet.
I was going to do it now.
It's just really weird.
All right, Nick.
I'm not going to fill in for OB.
No, we're going to role play. You be OB.
Luke is...
okay. You have to do your best OB when we talk Fargos. All right?
Okay. I'm going to get fired. Let's go.
All right. Shall I just call you BO?
Sure.
You're the bizarro OB. B.O., I'm hungry, man. It's Thursday. What do you think I should do, B.O.?
Well, let me tell you, even if you had some B.O., David, I'd still go to Fargo's with you.
What? Why would you go to Fargo's, O.B.
Well,
or B.O.?
The rib
This is terrible so far.
Meat dessert, meat candy.
Yeah, do you know what they have on Thursdays?
Oh, that's is it 4 C's day? It is.
No.
Oh, no. It's not the catfish, coleslaw, and crunchy hush
No,
puppies.
that's tomorrow.
Loaded baked potato.
No, that's Wednesday.
It's all good.
It's
it
pork
all
chops.
Works. Oh, that's even better.
And you know what they have as a side that I love?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and the cheese.
And the cheese.
You know they have green beans too. OB doesn't really hit on that one. I don't know if he's a vegetable guy.
Neither am I. Give me double mac and cheese, please.
Hey, you know they've been around for 22 years? Over
That's
22 years.
That's your trademark.
No, that's not their trademark. We haven't got there yet.
Trademark. Sorry.
No, they can do everything. You know they can do football parties, weekends,
office parties.
There we go. Anniversaries,
tailgates,
funerals,
weddings.
You name it, right?
Yeah.
Good food done the right way. They're at 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan. Without a doubt, the what?
The best barbecue in Texas, i.e. the world.
You know that's their trademark.
Oh, it's true.
It's Fargo's. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. No Olin Buchanan today, but he is listening. He heard Nick do the Fargo spot, and he said, nicely done, Nick. So nice job there, especially with the little voice crack that people were talking about. Good job, Nick. Let's go to the Brian Foley hotline, and that's where we find Stephen McGee here on the program. Stephen, good morning, buddy.
Hey, brother, how we doing?
We're good, man. Look, I probably should have texted you before I asked you about this. Have you, by any chance, seen the Patrick Mahomes picture that's circulating on the internet?
Yes, I did. The comparison to Tom Brady.
dad bods, bro. Like, I would never predict that, like, the best at their craft would look like, you know, my neighbor, right? Like, they're just normal dudes, but that's what they look like.
Yeah, his body looks like my 18-month-old daughter's body right now. She's got that milk belly, looking healthy. But hey, there's a consistent theme here. The GOAT are the best to do it, Tom Brady, and arguably, you know, if he stays on the same torrid pace he's on, he'll probably go down as the new GOAT one day. Well, they got that dad body in common, man, but it doesn't seem to hold them back.
So I've never seen a Joe Montana shirtless shirt, so I don't shirtless pics, and I'm not going to Google it, although I thought about it for a second. That being said, I remember hearing that dude could slam dunk and do 360 dunks in his day. I don't think Joe had the dad bod that those guys have.
Yeah, you know, I would doubt it, but it makes me think of Tony Romo. Tony had the dad bod, just terrible upper torso, but an incredible athlete. He was, you know, played in the NBA G League deal in Dallas and was a point guard. Like, he was a baller. And of course, underappreciated athlete as a football player. He's really good in the pocket, being able to buy time, make people miss. These guys can surprise you, and of course, a great golfer as well. So, I don't know what it is about the dad bod and playing quarterback, but there seems to be a theme.
Well, my internet's going to be flagged because I just did what I said I wouldn't do. I Googled Joe Montana shirtless. Old man is jacked for an old man. And then there's a picture of him back in the day. He had abs. So I'll give Joe Montana the props.
This conversation went south quick, but yeah, I guess I'll take your word for it.
I'll send it to you. Hey, how much time? I know we've talked, but we had Tommy Moffitt on the show yesterday. He was phenomenal, the strength and conditioning coach. How much time did you spend with your strength and conditioning coach? Because people talk about that being such a key part of the team. Just kind of take me back to your day.
Yeah, it's arguably one of the most important assistant coach hires you can make because of that reason. I mean, the guys are going to spend the most time around their strength and conditioning coach, probably by a factor of 2 or 3. You know, I spent more time as an aggregate for the entire 365 days of the year around our strength and conditioning coach compared to my quarterback coach in college. And so, and not just that, just the time factor, it's the mentality and the approach of what kind of DNA do I want my football team to take on, right? And it's that preach of every day when those guys show up early in the morning to go to off-season conditioning or in the weight room. What's the message as the head coach that I want preached every day to my guys that we're going to be about? That's very, very important. And so I think getting the right guy for that element of the program is crucial. So I'm excited. You know, I've heard nothing but great things about it.
Talking to Stephen McGee here on TexAgs Radio on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. How much NFL are you watching?
Man, this time of year, I love it. I'm very much tuned in. I think it's fascinating. You know, it's always fun to see NFL playoff football. I feel like teams are able to take it up another notch, right? I mean, defenses, the schemes that you see, it's just so fun. And I think the most interesting thing I took away from last week's games was I think we all agree that you can't win in the NFL without a great quarterback. Like if your favorite team doesn't have a great quarterback, you pretty much know that you're not going to make it to the Final Four, right? I mean, name a team without a good quarterback that makes it. The interesting part is that Lamar Jackson, who's going to be the MVP, and I think we would all agree deservedly so, continues to have big game issues. And I think this is something that we've talked a lot about because of the trend of quarterbacks moving from that Tom Brady traditional drop back passer to more of a dual threat Lamar Jackson, change the game with your legs. And I don't disagree with any of that theme. And I know how difficult it is for coordinators to try to stop a great quarterback that can use their legs. Like, there's not a defender in the box to account for the quarterback in the run game. Don't disagree with that. But can these dual threat quarterbacks do two things? Number one, can they stay healthy for 17 games plus the playoffs, right? Your backup quarterback can't take you to the title. So you've got to stay healthy. And then number two, can they win for basically, 21 games in a row from the pocket, right? Or can they win at least from the pocket when it matters most and when defenses get really good and force you to be a thrower? And that theme reared its head again for Lamar Jackson. And I think that's going to be the question mark over his head until he proves people wrong, that he can win in the games that matter most when the defenses are at their best as a passer. Something very interesting I find. That's what I was really came away from as a bigger picture theme, not just for the NFL, but certainly for college football as well.
Stephen, as these NFL hopefuls get ready for the combine, they do all this work to get their body right, their speed at the right spot. Obviously it helps them get ready for the combine, but does that work leading to the combine actually help or hurt their NFL part of the game, like the job that they're going to have to do?
Man, it's a great question. You know, the concern, the hurt part of it that I would say is for a lot of these guys that played in a bowl game or played in a New Year's Day bowl game especially, I mean, you think about the duration of that season. They started in late July, early August. They went till January. They're full tilt. They're playing games. You know, they have the wear and tear through the course of the year. And then they flip the switch and they're immediately into that combine preparation of trying to get their bodies now in a different type of shape to be able to run fast and look pretty at a combine. You know, so they don't ever get the rest. And then they go into pro days. Then they go into personal workouts. Then they go into rookie minicamp. Then they go into OTAs. And then they go into summer conditioning, and they get about a 2-week span off before they start summer training camp or fall training camp, So they really don't get any rest. And I think people often forget about that cycle for these rookies. And so that's difficult on their bodies. But, you know, the meat market, that is the combine, it's a dog and pony show. You know, I think for certain positions, you really do need to run well. You know, like receivers, defensive backs. If you run slow, it's going to be hard for people to draft you. But, you know, it's more of just checking off boxes, right? Can you handle yourself in a professional approach? Do you say the right things? Do you do the right things? Do you look the part? Are you big enough when you walk in the door? Those types of things.
All right, let's hit a break here. When we come back, Stephen, I'm going to do a little buy, sell, lease celebrity couples that you have to hang out with. You got to pick them. All right, that's coming up in a couple minutes.
Boy.
Oh, yeah, and I got another NFL question for you. We'll put him on hold. We'll come back. He's on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Right now, we're talking Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell online. CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com is the place to go find your vehicle, right? Whatever you're looking for. You got a lot of questions when you're searching for a vehicle. If you got kids like my age, like my boys' age, they're 15. They'll be driving this June. You know, I've got to start thinking about buying them a car. I got to think about, do I want to do it now? Do I want to be the kind of dad that waits a little bit? That's the kind of dad I am typically. But regardless, I'm in that world right now. I'm thinking about what the next vehicle is going to look like. And, you know, you might be in a different situation. You might need a bigger vehicle for your lifestyle. You might need to downsize because your kids are going off to college. You don't need that big old vehicle anymore. Whatever the situation may be, Caldwell Country Chevrolet is going to help you out with the process with a couple things that they'll bring to the table. Great customer service, great people, awesome deals. And I think that sells it for itself, right? Like you can get an awesome trade-in value, get a great deal on your vehicle, and the best customer service, which includes complimentary pickup for their service customers. That's some of the reasons, not all of them. There's a bunch more to go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It's not a far drive either. We're talking about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell, short conversation away. But you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. All right, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. We go back to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Stephen McGee, our QB1 from Paragon Financial, is with us here. All right, Stephen, you ready for a little buy, sell, lease?
Let's do it.
All right. You got to hang with one of these couples for a weekend, right? And it's a whole weekend. You guys are going hunting together. You're going to a beach. Go ahead.
I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat you to it. I already know who I'm going to sell.
Okay.
It's going to be Kelsey and Swift. So I'll let you finish the rest of it.
Not so fast, my friend. Let's continue on. Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift. Will Smith and Jada Pinkett.
Oh.
Yeah, I got you good there. And David and Victoria Beckham, which I think is the winner chicken dinner. But I'll let you take it from there.
1,000%. I'm buying Beckham's all day long. I'll lease the Smith couple just for the chaos and the drama. And I'm definitely selling Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift. I've seen enough of that show. And if I could throw Brittany Mahomes into the picture as well, I'm selling that all day.
Man,
I don't know where you fall on that spectrum.
I don't think I want to spend any time with Will Smith or Jada Pinkett. I just think that's the life that they live. I don't think that would be a good vibe for the weekend. I'm just saying.
1,000%. I totally agree with you, but there's always worse than worse, and I'm burned out on the Kelsey Swift situation, man. I can take no more.
All right, let me do a football question for you. I don't know if you saw this, but Jerry Jones was asked about Bill Belichick, and he said, "I know him personally, and I like him. There's no doubt in my mind we could work together. None, no doubt." Do you think that Bill Belichick and Jerry Jones could work together in the future?
No, I don't. There's so many decisions as to the personnel and the makeup of your football team, and then the heavy hand that Jerry and Stephen Jones put into that football team. And so I just, especially with an old guy like Bill Belichick, who's been around the block and who's had a lot of success, it's going to be hard to teach an old dog new tricks, so to speak. And I just don't think that would jive. I think it's oil and water. I think that Jerry's all about the pomp and stance, and Bill Belichick is anything but, right? I mean, he wants no drama. He wants no attention. And I think he's going to want to be able to make those key decisions that affect his football team that I don't think that Jerry's going to be fully willing to give up.
Steven, we've got about 2 minutes left here. The Brock Purdy story to me is interesting because typically I think America or television viewing audience for sports goes for the underdog. But I feel like Brock Purdy, who is an underdog, he was Mr. Relevant, right? He's somebody I still don't feel like people are 100% behind. And it's like, it's a novelty to him. What do you think about the whole Purdy story?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite underdog stories in sports right now. I'm a huge Brock Purdy fan. I love the story, and I think it's a great story, not just for pro sports, but I think for a lot of these kids out there that are underdogs themselves, that have been told they're too small, they're not good enough, and hopefully that offers them the inspiration they need to continue their dreams. Right? It's fun to watch. He's not big enough. He doesn't have a good enough arm. He's not a good enough athlete. He didn't have enough wins in college. He didn't go to the big school. He didn't check any box. But the kid's a winner. He's gutsy. He's charismatic. He's just low key. I love the way he handles himself. I love what he stands for. I'm pulling for Brock Purdy, obviously, to win this thing, even though I know he represents San Francisco, which I'm not a fan of. But yeah, I love the Brock Purdy story, and it's going to be fun to watch.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time as always, brother.
All right, brother. Take care. Have a good weekend, man.
All right, Stephen McGee, our QB1, Paragon Financial, bringing it. All right, good stuff there. All right, so that was a busy first hour of the program. Mike Lombardi was awesome. Appreciate that conversation. Stephen McGee was great. No Ole Buchanan. We miss our buddy OB, no doubt about that. He'll be back tomorrow for the program. The remainder of the show, Logan Lee will be with us here in a few minutes. Billy Liucci, He's not going to be here tomorrow, so he's coming in today. He's like, you know what? I got to give the people what they want. So if you got any questions for Luch, you can do that at 979-693-1150. He'll be with us at 9:35, so we'll have Luch at that point. And then the 10 o'clock hour, a little bit more Luch, and we'll finish it off with everybody's favorite show, The Fan Show, presented by Girard Construction. So a lot to get into here over the next 2 hours. We'll get into that. Of course, you can send your messages at 979-693-1150. You're listening to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. And that does it for the Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looks so good with Maroon You. Every once in a while, when I get in my basketball funk where I'm like, are we going to win again? And I sometimes verbalize it out loud. Logan Lee's here to save the day and give me some optimism. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Lolo's here. What's up, Logan?
I'm going to be a disappointment to you today.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Optimism kind of starting to get zapped?
No, I mean,
We got time. 11 games left.
That's not a lot of time. When you look at the schedule, put the schedule up there. Look.
But if
look
you
at
win,
the schedule.
if you win, though.
What do you mean if you win? So they're going to rattle off 11 wins?
No, but if you split with Tennessee, you end up splitting with Ole Miss. Who else? Alabama. Okay, maybe you don't win all
Whoa,
those.
did you say you're going to split with Tennessee?
If they beat Kentucky already.
You're right. They did.
And
they lost to Arkansas.
They play everybody tight.
Look, here's the thing.
And I actually have something negative to bring up after all this. But
no, here's the thing. I think they can win any game that they go into.
But
they can lose any game that they go into. There's no cakewalk for this team, whether it is an SEC opponent or a Southwest Conference opponent. There's no cakewalk for this team. And they have to show up. I think Saturday will be a good litmus test for where they are.
Right.
Because one, it's a good team. Florida is good in all aspects. Not great, good in all aspects. They are a really good offensive rebounding team.
They're winning, though, right now.
They're winning.
Right now, they're winning.
And so everybody knows Buzz can make adjustments. He gets his team in the cycle of figuring out a process, and once he figures out what adjustments to make, it may take a little time to implement. But when he has time, which he had a bye week this week, things change. Now, let's see what Saturday looks like, and then we'll have a better idea of what the remainder of the year is going to look like, because they've had a week to prepare for Florida.
Right.
They've had a week to change some things. And
a team that matches up with you, like they do what you do, which is the scary part.
And they're winning.
They just won last night against Kentucky. I think they've won 4 in a row.
They've got confidence. They have momentum.
I take that back. They score a lot more than A&M does. 85 a game.
Well, that's because they shoot better.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at all the other stats, I think they're very similar, except for the shooting percentage. But A&M doesn't match anybody's shooting percentage right now. They're historically bad.
They're better at everything.
At what they do. They are better at everything. That's why they're winning, though.
Yeah.
If you put, I guarantee you, if you put A&M shooting percentage at 45%, all the other stats go up as well.
I don't remember what they shot last year. Was it that high?
No, A&M?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I mean, I think Wade shot like 70%.
Well,
that's not happening.
So let's play it out.
Okay.
They win on Saturday, what? And if they lose Saturday, what?
They win Saturday, anything can happen. You're looking at a team that has probably figured it out, what they need to do and where they need to go and how they need to get there. Obviously, they already know where they need to go and what they need to do. They got to figure out how they get there. So if they figure that out and they win Saturday, I think they end up in probably positions 5, maybe 6, 7, 5, 6, 7 in conference.
Yep.
Somewhere around there. If they lose, they could be down where they are, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever that looks like. I don't think that Saturday is a
must.
A tell-all for what the season is going to look like, but I do think it'll give you a good idea as to, hey, have they made changes? Have they made the right changes? Are they willing to make those changes? What does that look like? You know, are they going to run an offensive set, or are they going to let Wade just fire it up and hope they grab offensive rebounds? Because against Florida, that's not going to work. I mean, I haven't looked at it since, but 2 weeks ago, A&M was averaging 18.3 offensive rebounds a game. Tops in conference. Who was second? Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Something like 16.8. Like, that's right there.
Yeah.
And Florida makes their shots, though. So Florida makes their shots and they grab it just as many offensive rebounds when they miss. And that's the struggle. That's where, okay, you're fighting fire with fire. Who's going to win? Team that makes more shots.
Right.
Who makes more shots? At this point, Florida.
So I'm gonna ask you this, and I'm gonna give you a long way to get to the answer. Okay. Are they close to winning, or is just that's how they play? Because all these games come down to 1 or 2 possessions, right? And then I'm going to give you some numbers behind that. I chose an NBA team that plays in close games, okay? The Houston Rockets, 18 of their 47 games have been decided by 6 points or less. That's out of their 47 games. They're 22 and 25. They're under 500, okay? SEC teams, Georgia, kind of in the same ballpark. They're playing better than A&M, but same ballpark. This year, they've had 6 games of 6 points or less. Florida, who they're about to play, 7 games, 6 points or less. A&M, it's not that drastically different, but is different. And SEC play alone, 5 games, 6 points or less, 8 overall on the year. So, I don't think they're a bad team. Please don't take this the wrong way. But bad teams play in close games. Good teams play in close games, right? Like the 0-16 Detroit Lions, I don't know how many of those games came down to the wire. I don't know. Richard would know upstairs. But bad teams play in close games. It doesn't mean, but you've got to learn how to win those games. And they're struggling at the start of games, and they're also struggling at the end.
Yeah.
It's a long way of getting to a question that didn't happen.
Yeah, but here's the thing. 2 years ago, when they lost 8 in a row, I think they lost every single one of them by 2 possessions, except for one that was like 4 possession game. And then they rattled off how many wins?
I think it was 7
It's because they were right there, and so they weren't a bad team that year. They just didn't make the plays when it was necessary to make plays.
But that's why they didn't make the tournament, because they weren't good in those 8.
Because they weren't good in those 8. I still think they should have made the tournament the way they were playing at the end. And
100%.
People, had they made the tournament, people would have been scared to play them because they were a good team. It's just at that span of 8.
But you can't be a good team at the end.
No. I'm not saying they're a good team right now.
Oh, so you would take that team over this team?
Yeah, because I think that team had an identity. That team had,
but not at
had
this
a
point.
Flow.
Not at this point of the year, not yet.
I kind of do. I think at that season we kept saying they're right there. They're right there. If they can turn the corner, they are going to take off, and they did.
Well,
are we saying that this year?
No, but I think the big problem we have with the team, if you were to go, and I'm sure Nick could find it, like a show that we did at this exact time, we'd be like, A, the season's over, and B, they hadn't given the keys to Quentin Jackson yet. When they gave the keys to, you do your thing, we're just going to play good defense and rebound. And he did. They've kind of tried that with Wade, except the numbers would bear they need others to help Wade.
I think that they did that too early with Wade this year. And I think everybody fell into a mold of, Wade will do it.
Yeah.
Wade will do it. It's no big deal. Wade will do it. And they can't get out of it right now. And that's why I'm hoping that this entire week was spent on how do we help him? Instead of waiting for him to help us, how do we help him? What can we do to make his life easier? How do we get Hefner in a better position to score? How do we put Tyrese in a position to score instead of just trying to create on his own? How do we put Anderson Garcia maybe in a position to score?
Yep.
Because he hasn't, that's really not his game, but he hasn't been utilized in any other aspect. You know, how do we get Jace Carter an open shot where he's not rushing it?
He does rush his shots.
What play can we run to set a back screen lob for Eli Lawrence? Let him play above the rim and play quick and fast in transition. Maybe that'll open up some confidence and give him the ability to knock down a 3. Where do we go from here? And that's what I hope this entire week was for the Aggies, is where do we go from here? How do we help Wade? How do we help Tyrese? What do we do? And then, to be honest, I hope that their defense picks up. I don't think their defense has been stellar for 40 minutes.
Well, they have to be great.
Game.
They have to be great at those areas, right?
Yep.
They have to be great, not good, great at defense, great at offensive rebounding, and great at finishing or hitting your free throws. They got to be great at those.
Or your layups. I mean, they miss so many bunnies. Like they're just gimmies, and they're missing them. And that's part of the reason why they get a lot of offensive rebounds.
True.
Is because they miss those layups.
So Callie had this stat in here, and I heard it before, but it's worth being reminded, Aggies are 9-1 over the last 3 years when Boots scores 20 or more. So there you go. That's all you need. Just find 20 points for Boots and it's over. No, if Wade playing the way he's playing with Boots he's only given you 13 this year. He missed some time, but I think he's had some time to get his legs back. Get him closer to the 17 to 20.
I think this team is, with this week, you will see a healthier Tyrese Radford. You will see a healthier team just in totality. And you'll see a more energized, more enthusiastic, more defensive-minded team than we've been watching. Now, that goes back to when Boots scores 20, A&M wins. Well, it can't be he's scoring 20, but he took 18 shots and he had to create for himself. Get him some open buckets. Run him off some screens. Have him curl into the paint. Get him down low. Set a back screen. Do something instead of letting Wade do what he does. He doesn't create anything, so we pass it to Tyrese, and Tyrese takes the ball up to half court, and then he tries to set up a ball screen and create off a ball screen. Like, no, there's no continuity in that. There's no flow. Get them some open shots in the rhythm of the game, in the rhythm of the set, and see what happens. And play faster.
Well, see, that's my thing. When I'm listing out things that I want to see this team do, and I'll give you my list, and you can kind of react to them. I want to see more fast starts because there's been a lot of slow starts.
Absolutely.
How about an efficient finish? You're in these games. Find a way to stop them because your defense has escaped you or your offense has or both have. Okay? So push the pace offensively. They're at their best when they're running. I know they missed a lot of gimmies, right? The layups, we talked about it. But I feel like their best chance to score is earlier in the shot clock as opposed to later in the shot clock. Agree?
Absolutely. Start fast. Hey, the team needs to know the first 4 possessions, this is what we're running. These are the plays. Play 1, play 2, play 3, play 4. It doesn't matter what happens on the defensive end. It doesn't matter what happens at any point. Play those 4 plays because they know it and they're gonna utilize it and it's gonna happen.
We got a caller for you. That's why I handed you.
As far as efficiency at the end of games, hey, maybe it's make adjustments quicker. Because the other team's adjusting. That's why A&M's struggling, is because they're adjusting. They're making adjustments on the fly, and A&M's trying to do the exact same thing. They're going back to the same watering well, and it's not working.
I'll give you a couple more. I think the further one is the one that's working. I'll give you a couple of more of my things that they need to do, and I'll have you react to it. 979-693-1150. If you want to talk to Logan Lee here on TexAgs Radio, you can certainly do that. Let's go to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We are joined by Mike, who wants to talk a little bit about the post play. Mike, welcome to TexAgs.
Thank you, Logan. Listen, I think y'all are spot on what you're talking about today. I just don't know why they don't play inside out a little more now. And I want to say this. I know they have not dominating postmen, and that's fine. But I do think they have some guys that can step up the lane a little bit, maybe catch it near the free throw line. The other night against Mississippi at the game, I thought that 7-footer was maybe considered dangerous if he's standing right under the goal, but I didn't think he could guard squat up around the post, the free throw line. I didn't understand why they don't move the post up, and that guy would have no chance to have guarded him in an open court, basically, type situation. And then one time they posted, I want to say Washington, and maybe it wasn't, but they posted him, and he operated on the guy and laid it up, and they did it one time, and I said, okay, now we're going, and then they never went back to it. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. Mike, great observant. I appreciate you giving a call.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you. We'll discuss.
They don't have anybody in the post. Like, Henry Coleman is not a post player. He attacks the post. He has zero back to the basket skills when it comes to a guy that is 6'10" or taller or long and athletic. Henry's just a banger. He's physical. He's strong.
He can face up.
He's a bull in a china cabinet. He has really worked on his face up game. If you put him in the high post and let him go to his right hand and finish, they did that at the start of conference pretty effectively when they did it. But we haven't seen him do that, and I don't know that that's because of injury or ability or matchup or what it may be. Mike's right. If you have a 7'5" guy and
bring him
out and go around him, see what happens. Get him in foul trouble, change the game.
You can't get the ball to Wildens Levesque in the paint either.
No, that's what I'm saying. They don't have a post presence. Julius Marble was their one and only back to the basket efficient scorer in the post.
So let me ask you this. How different does this season look if they do have Julius? Because I still think there's some issues this year that didn't pop up last year.
Yeah, but those issues get hidden if you have
a point player, post player.
If you have a guy that's on the block and the defense has to continuously check their head. Hey, do I have to help down? I can't rotate as easy. I can't clog the paint. That's just another facet of scoring that opens up Wade and Tyrese on the perimeter. So for Wade, it would give him half a second to shoot the ball more. For Hefner, it would give him half a second to shoot the ball more. For Tyrese, he's getting to the rim now. Instead of, how many times have we seen Radford get an easy layup in the paint?
And
like we haven't.
Right.
It's because
he did in the Kentucky game and he hit him.
And he made it. But you look at if Julius were on the block, and let's not forget, even though he could score in the paint, he was a good passer out of the post.
Yeah.
He looked to pass the ball, and that opens up everything. So there's a different dynamic to the team, but neither here nor there. He's not playing, so it doesn't matter. You've got to adjust. You've had, how many games have they had? They've had 19 games. That 20.
Yeah, it's time to adjust.
20 games. You can't fall back on that anymore.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
But one thing about a Buzz Williams team, this is not an excuse. People will take it as an excuse. But the way he builds his team, you need consistency in your lineup, in your roles, and with guys in and out, even if it's for 3 or 4 games, it throws off the entire rhythm.
So build your team with 2 post players, and if one gets hurt, you still have one. And that was Wildens Levesque.
And it didn't.
You bring in a guy from UMass that's 6'10", that's athletic. And I don't think we've, again, utilizing your personnel, I don't think we have seen everything that Levesque can do, because in the Kentucky game, he made a statement.
Yeah.
He put a stamp on that game. A&M doesn't win without him.
You're right.
And there were some games in non-conference schedule where he took one dribble from the free throw line. He was diving, catches the ball, takes one dribble, and rises up and puts his elbow above the rim. But we haven't seen that.
No, we have not.
And
is that maybe because Buzz doesn't trust him yet?
I was about to say maybe that was a one-time thing. He got lucky and we haven't seen it again. Maybe it just hasn't been performing in practice. I don't know.
Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Caitlin Torrance there. Caitlin, there's a text from Tim about the shooting.
Yeah, I saw that. It's a question for you, Logan. He said, shooting success is so much about confidence, as you know. How can you explain the lack of confidence on this team? I believe it is even affecting their defensive pressure.
I definitely agree. It's affecting their defensive presence.
When you lose confidence.
I don't know. Wade hasn't lost confidence,
but he's
firing it up.
He's the one balling.
But Tyrese has been hurt. I truly believe that he's been hurt. I don't know.
Henry too.
I don't know what it is, but I think that that even 30% from the 3-point line isn't good enough. However, he's had to force some shots, and he
hits a bunch of those forcers, doesn't he?
He does.
Oh, okay. By all means.
There were about 8 of those in the Arkansas game, and I was like, no, what? Okay.
Oh,
there he is. Let him shoot.
Well, again, it's going to sound like a broken record. I don't think, and I know there's probably a mathematician out there who's going to tell me I'm wrong, but I think this team shoots way too many threes. I just do. Like, they're not a 3-point shooting team. Wade, you can do your thing because he's living up to it.
Yeah.
But Boots is not a 3-point shooter. Andy's not a 3-point shooter. He can hit him. Solo can hit him, but they're not like, I feel like for the amount that we miss, they shouldn't take that many.
Agreed. I completely agree, and that's why I'm hoping that this week there has been some change at the offensive end. I'm hoping that they can adjust and move, and I know I've been harping on this for, 3 years now. Get a set play in there. Just run something. But I always go back to, this is Buzz's team, and he's with those guys day in and day out. He knows what it is. He's a good basketball coach. So he obviously knows something that we don't. He sees something that we don't. So it's hard to really question it.
It's not about second-guessing him. It's about, darn, this was supposed to be the year. And here we go again.
I think that's the more frustrating part of it is we came in with expectations of, hey, all of these guys know exactly what to do. So there's not going to be any lag in figuring out the process.
You know what hurts Aggie basketball even more? Or I don't know about more, but also is that we had those expectations for football. We have those expectations for baseball. And baseball ended up having a nice year, but they didn't, last season at least, it didn't feel at times they were going to be that level. And then they turned it on in the postseason a little bit. Basketball, this is supposed to be their year. They got all these guys coming back. And when the big three sports, and by the way, baseball is going to be really good this year. I have faith in that. And last year they were pretty good considering the pitching was not. They were really good, right? I think that's why we're waiting for something. Women's tennis is doing great. Thank you. Women's basketball seems to be on the way up. Softball is definitely on the way up. Like there's these women's golf, men's golf. Like there's a lot of good things happening. But when we talk about the big three, we're like, this is supposed to be their basketball, Sweet 16 year. Baseball, let's get back to Omaha, and hopefully they do. Football, 9 to 10 win season. And that, after a bad football season, adds to the frustration with the basketball season.
There's no question. There's no question, but yeah, we'll leave it at that.
All right, I'm way late for a break, but let me read this real quick.
Okay.
Fast starts, efficient finish, all right? Push the pace offensively. I would love to see the number 3 and 4 offensive option have efficient games as well, right? Not just the top 2 guys. Better from the line. Win your home games, right? Especially the ones against teams in your area, and take one from the big guys. You do that, you're in the postseason.
You just
rattled off a lot.
You just told them to change their team.
No.
Yeah, you did.
My voice totally cracked.
Yeah,
no.
You did.
They should be able to finish games better.
You just said, change how they start, change how they finish. Change your offense efficiency.
Be better from the line.
Be better from the free throw line.
That's who they were.
Finish your shots. Get some help from more than 2 players.
Yeah, they should.
But that
those are the shoulds.
Go to break.
You know, just for that,
I'm glad I've been here.
I'm not going to have Heritage Films do a video on you. I'm not. For a long time, I was like, I'm just because I'm his friend, I want to pay for it. I'm going to call Chance up and be like, Logan Lee, one of the most underrated players of those teams in the early 2000s with Billy Gillespie, 04, 05, 06?
07.
07. Oh, my gosh, you were here a long time.
04 to 07.
You know, like I was thinking in my head, I'll just pay for it because I love Logan and his family. I'll have Chance come out there. We'll tell his story about his time in San Antonio, his time in Hawaii, his time here at Texas A&M. And had there been the G League at the time, he would have probably been a G League star. I would have told that story with Chance McClain, and they would have done the Q&A. They would have done the 2-hour documentary. It would have been fantastic. But right now, I'm not thinking about doing that. But for the rest of his family, if they want to do a year flicks, these 20-minute videos, these Q&As, you get to know the kids on a different level, right? Have Q talk, right? Like, let's find out what he's into, what he's not into.
Oh, let's not do that.
I've been at lunch with him. I think he's got a lot to offer in this conversation. That's what you do, right? You call up Chance McClain to tell the family story from the beginning to the end, the long heritage film or the shorter year flick. 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. YourHeritageFilm.com. YourHeritageFilm.com is Heritage Films. And we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is now time for Around the SEC. Callie Gardner in the house. Hello.
Hello, David. How are you today?
Doing well. You like basketball, don't you?
I love basketball. I love it all.
I can tell, but like basketball, I feel like there's a little pep in your step when you talk about it.
You know, I kind of am.
The mic.
I kind of am where my feet are. So football
okay, that's
season,
a buzz line.
Football, you know, yeah. Football season, I'm football.
And right now you're football, you're basketball.
And right now I'm basketball, and come 2 months I'm going to be baseball.
Okay.
But I'm a basketball girl. I love basketball. I've traveled the most to see A&M play basketball outside of College Station, so I will say I'm a basketball girl.
All right. Well, let's get into Around the SEC. We got some basketball. We got some football. What do we got?
We've got it all. We'll start with football.
Okay.
SEC Mike rated his hot seat coaches going into 2024. And he had some interesting
different tiers,
takes.
right?
Different tiers, yeah. He had 1 through 5. 1 being no coach was on the hot seat, but 5 is like boiling hot. Like you got to get it together. You have a guess for who his number 5 was? Like most hot seat coach?
Got to be Sam Pittman.
Sam Pittman.
And I got to assume either in the same category or slightly above Billy Napier.
Billy Napier was 4. So right below the hottest of the hot seats, which I tend to agree with. I think both of those coaches have some room to grow with their programs, and they got to get it going this season for sure. Elko was number 1. He's not on the hot seat at all, which is fair. He's in his first season here. Interesting, he gave the Alabama coach, Kalen DeBear, a 2.
A 2?
A 2.
That's interesting.
A 2. So
if they have like a 7-5 year, he thinks maybe?
I mean, I don't really know he didn't elaborate a ton on it, but
okay.
I was interested by that. Or see how that plays out this year. Basketball, I think you're totally spot on with your things that A&M needs to change. You know, I don't think your analysis meant we have to change the whole team. I was on your side. I was on your side. I think those are important things, and I think
those are doable.
Doable for sure.
Doable.
I think doable by Saturday. I think we can turn things around against Florida. I thought it was interesting. A&M and Florida played Kentucky very similar. You know, they both went into overtime. They both finished 4 to 5 points apart from each other. So we'll see how that plays out this weekend.
If I remember correctly, Kentucky and Florida played twice, and I believe the first time those two played, it was also a very close game that Kentucky won.
Yes. So, and they won at each other's stadium. So Florida beat Kentucky at Rupp Arena, which is hard to do.
Right.
So we were lucky to have Kentucky at Reed Arena this year. So Kentucky is now 3-3 in their last 6 games. They lost to A&M, South Carolina, and Florida. So that is, and then they host Tennessee on Saturday. South Carolina is continuing to prove themselves. They've won 5 of their last 6, including beating Kentucky at Kentucky and then Tennessee at Tennessee. So they are continuing to kind of make a climb. They have the potential to be 9-2 heading into their matchup with Auburn. So keep an eye on that. And then Alabama and Georgia are benefiting from South Carolina's success because Bama beat South Carolina by 27 earlier in the season.
Holy smokes, yeah.
So Bama's got some SEC smoke as well. If the season ended today, A&M would be a 9 seed in the SEC tournament, and they would match up with Georgia in the second round. So we're hoping to change that and climb there because we've started pretty hot in the SEC tournament in the past 2 years. So hopefully we can keep that going. There's some big top 25 matchups this weekend in basketball. Tennessee plays Kentucky. Number 4 Houston plays number 8 Kansas. 7 Duke plays 3 North Carolina, and 12 Iowa State plays 18 Baylor. And we've kind of kept an eye on Iowa State's season because we beat them earlier in the season, and they have had some success. So hopefully they continue to have that success, which helps us out as well. And then last thing, if the NCAA tournament started today, which SEC team would be your pick to make a run besides A&M?
Which SEC team? Tennessee?
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee. I think so too.
Tennessee would be my pick, no doubt.
I would 1,000% say them too.
All right, let's hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs, good job, by the way, Kelly. When we come back on TexAgs, Billy Liucci should be with us. We'll chit-chat with Billy here momentarily. Right now, if you're looking to relocate to Aggieland, or if you're already here, how about you consider getting a job at the Association of Former Students? If you're looking for that reason to come back, they have some opportunities there. They want to add professionals to their team. Their positions open in fundraising, former student programs, and much, much more. They are the nation's leader, premier alumni association, and oldest organization serving Texas A&M in support of that amazing Aggie network out there. They play a part in each and every Aggie story from Howdy to here, and they have so many cool events that you can be a part of with Howdy Socials, Aggie Reading Day, class reunions, Aggie Muster, and everything in between. They are such a great organization to be a part of. Join a team that exemplifies those Aggie core values of excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service, all in support of that worldwide Aggie network. If you're interested in joining the team or sharing with someone who would be a great fit, please visit tx.ag/association jobs to apply and get more information on each position. It is the Association of Former Students. Welcome back into the program. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, and they are found at 911 University Drive East in College Station. They are a proud corporate sponsor of Aggie Athletics and of this show since day one. You go there, you get your Rolex timepieces. You can also get the ideal gift for any David Yurman collector, signature bracelet or cable bracelet, to add to her stack. Check them out at davidgardnersjewelers.com. All right, let's do this. Let's check in at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center and see what Caitlin Torrens got for us, because Billy should be here momentarily. I think the rumor is he's parking. I might be wrong. We can play it by ear. Caitlin, what you got?
Yeah, earlier this week, women's swimming and diving coach Steve Boltman announced his retirement after 25 seasons at Texas A&M, and his record is beyond impressive. He's got 12 top team finishes in the double NCAAs, 8 conference championships, 6 individual national championships, produced 80 All-Americans and 16 Olympians, all in his time here at Texas A&M.
Pretty incredible. We got to get him back in studio here soon.
Got to get him back. We've also got men's tennis. Tiago Perez named co-freshman SEC Player of the Week. He's so far got a perfect 3-0 singles record. Perez's triumph against number 19 Georgia Bulldogs last week landed A&M a spot in the 2024 ITA National Indoor Championship.
Let's go.
Big stuff. Also, number 25 men's golf finishes in 6th place at Arizona National Invitational Tournament. Daniel Rodriguez fired a 66 in the second round, finished the tournament tied for 5th place at 15 under. And 15 under was also his best of his college career.
There you go. All right. That's fantastic. What else do you have for us?
We are just 15 days away from the baseball home opener. And as everyone knows, outfielders Jace Lavallette and Braden Montgomery were just named preseason All-Americans by D1 Baseball. Lavallette was named first team, one of the nation's premier freshmen last year, set an A&M single-season freshman record with 21 home runs, led the team with 63 RBIs, 18 stolen bases, named to the USA College National Team, ranked inside 10 among the SEC in home runs, RBIs, and walks, and during conference play led all players with a .835 slugging percentage. He's got an impressive resume so far.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That offense is going to be pretty good. When we talk about Aggie baseball, Billy, I think the question's not about the offense. The question is, the look told me something was coming.
Was it the look or was it the... If you're going to do the pretty good,
I haven't done that today at all.
You just said it.
You
just said it, and you half-assed it. If you're going to do it, do it.
I think I was just saying pretty good.
Doesn't Curb Your Enthusiasm start Sunday, the final season?
Is that this Sunday?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy. So, I'm all in.
If you're going to... That's what I'm saying. If you're going to do it, do it. Why are you drinking green tea today?
Because you know that I it's not green, it's some other tea that they have up there. Okay. But I try not to have too much caffeine in my system.
But just a little caffeine.
No, that has 0. That particular tea has 0 caffeine. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, David. How are you?
I'm great.
I miss you this week.
Thank you, buddy. You were right. The fishbowl picture that you sent me. Good God, I'm not going to say what I told you I looked like.
I was joking with Zane. I didn't even include Dalton. I was joking with Zane because I go, is it just me and Nick back there? I go, pull back up that thing, like, because you know how I can't see that far. I'm like, it's Nuño, and they're like, yeah, he looks really skinny. I go, he's gonna hate this. You know, most people
do I look normal now,
if they look fat, but I was like, he's gonna hate this.
I don't want to look fat either, for the record.
Well, I know, but
I want to look.
You're not gonna look fat. Yeah, good. The fish bowl. There it was. You had the fishbowl effect going the last couple days.
I did, and it looked like airbrushed almost. Like it looked weird.
It was strange.
Did you?
It was tough to navigate.
Did you take a look at the picture that they posted of Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, he looked like me.
It's pretty good. Like you look like an NFL quarterback.
That's fine. Yeah, I
mean, one of the goats.
He's only. It is interesting. I mean, I don't care. Like I don't care what he looks like. I mean, Tom Brady. Most of what he probably looked like most of his career, like quarterbacks, it doesn't matter. Just throw the football. He can, and he's mobile. I saw somebody saying this is a bad sign though for, when he becomes an older QB. That guy's already so savvy and so. I mean, he sees things that most quarterbacks that have ever played the game don't see and can create it, and he can lose a step and still do that. My thing is, I'm just interested, like, when you're of that, all that tells me is when you're of that level in the NFL and you can play like he can play and win MVPs like he can win them and you're paid like you're paid, I don't think they demand you spend very much time in the weight room, is what I think. And I think.
But you know what's weird about that, Billy? Both he and Brady, when you watch videos of how they prepare for a season, their nutrition is on point. That body does not look like their nutrition is on point.
Is that how he?
Yeah, like
he's on point. Well, first of all, there's always bad pictures. Second of all, there's always, when you're, 20 plus weeks into a season.
Sure.
I'm sure some things go by the wayside in terms of nutrition and obviously training. The dude's playing quarterback. He's throwing the football. This is the same position that Jared Lorenzen once played. It's, Peyton Manning could have looked like that his whole career and been fine. Like, there's certain guys that can do, but Mahomes, it's interesting because he is so mobile. I think, first of all, it's probably a poor picture. Second, like I said, you're 24 weeks into this football season. So, I don't know. It is interesting, though, that at 28, with as much as they do physically, that he wouldn't be a little more, ripped, toned up, just because of the age.
Yeah.
And to be that age and do as much as they do. I know he plays a ton of golf in the off season too. It's not like he just sits around as an inactive, but whatever. I don't give a damn. The guy can play.
That's
the guy
great.
Can play. Yeah,
he's great. Did you hear Lombardi talk about how we had Michael Lombardi? No, yeah, we had Vince on a mobile. No, we had Michael Lombardi, former NFL GM, on the show earlier.
Yeah.
And he was like, Mahomes' numbers are down this year, like in the short passes and all the things but he has evolved into that's how that team needs to win. And that's the beauty of Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't have to be this 400-yard game.
It's interesting that's happened. I'll be really interested to see if that's just this year, that downturn. Because if it is happening in the evolution of him as a quarterback this early at 28, would be interesting, because that seems a little early. You see quarterbacks.
But he keeps losing guys, right?
That's what I say. You see these veteran quarterbacks, these legends, as they get older, adjust their game and they figure everything out, and everything seems to come so easy for them, and they can do it when they quote unquote lose it a little bit. I don't think he's losing it. I think it's
the personnel,
the offensive line, and especially the receiving core. When you lose a Tyreek Hill, when you lose, and I watched, even that Eagles game I was at midseason, they're dropping passes all over the place, man, all over the place, and he throws a game-winning touchdown on that game, Monday Night Football. He throws a game winner, and it goes right through the guy's hands, walking into the end zone for I don't know if it was 60-plus yards, perfect throw, wide open, touchdown, drop, and they lose that game. So, yeah, I just from watching games, I could have told you his numbers are down because their offense struggled a lot, and the fact that they've been able to turn it on, particularly he and Kelsey, with what those two have done these last 2 weeks, just tells you that they weren't coasting and cruising, but they at some point it hit them that we're about to be out of this thing.
Yeah,
they weren't gonna lose to who they play in round one. They weren't gonna lose. Oh no, yeah, they're we got the Dolphins, the Bills, and the
heck
Ravens,
of a road, man.
And they just flipped a switch, and I think that's just a championship mentality.
It is, and I think that's where Kelsey comes in, because people were talking about, the Taylor Swift effect. I'm not talking about Taylor now, but I'm saying he turned it on himself in the postseason.
For sure. They both did. They both absolutely did. And it's interesting because they weren't coasting and trying to save up for this. I think it really was just all right, it's now or never.
Right.
People are wanting us to fail. We're going to prove everyone wrong and get there, no matter how many people don't want us there. And that's that. That, to me, as I wrap this up, because I know we got a ton to talk about, that's that Derek Jeter, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, Kobe had that. You can think of those athletes along the way that just have that whole.
Yep.
Now, they want us to fail. Now I want to succeed twice as bad. I always want to, but now that I know everyone's rooting against me, here comes the middle finger to all y'all.
All right, let's talk a little Brazos Running Company, located at Century Square. They are Aggie-owned and operated, a specialty running store with the best selection of the shoes you want out there. Any athletic wear, really. You can get Brooks, you can get On, you can get Hoka. If you're a runner, a walker, interested in fitness at all, the right shoe makes all the difference in the world, and that's why we always go to Brazos Running Company. They're passionate about running and finding the right shoe that fits you and your needs. They'll take a look at your gait, they'll figure it out, and they'll put you in the right pair of shoes. They've got other brands as well, Birkenstock. They got Vuori. Billy's all in when it comes to Vuori. It's never too early to start thinking about the next shoe because, remember, 250 to 400 miles is what they say your shoes are supposed to do. They'll take care of you there at Brazos Running Company. Located at Century Square below the Star Cinema Grill in College Station, it's Brazos Running Company. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. We have a short segment here, so let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Caitlin Torn's there. Caitlin, I see a couple of texts coming in, one about Hugh Jackman, some questions for Billy as well, so I'll let you take it away.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, the first question is, where does Mike Evans end up? Texans, Jets, Chiefs, Bucks? Where do you think he's going to land?
Chiefs.
You think the Chiefs? That would be That would be something after everything we just talked about. I think if Mike wants to get another Super Bowl, I know he wants to. It's silly, but I mean, if that's the driving force here, I think you go to the Chiefs and you try to get one in the next couple of years. If you want to be, on a young up and coming
potential
football team where you could potentially win one, and reach iconic status, that's when you go do it in your home city with a young quarterback like C.J. Stroud. I say home city. Obviously, Galveston's not Houston; it's Greater Houston. Whatever we call it. Don't start with me. You got somebody upstairs that'll come down. Golden Triangle.
Ronathan.
He'll claim Galveston, and it's like part of the Golden Triangle. But I have no idea. I know where I'd love to see him go. Would be in this one. It's kind of all three different: Chiefs, Lions, or Texans.
Mm-hmm.
Go get you that. Go. It's the NBA approach is to go to the Chiefs,
right?
But they need a receiver like him. The LeBron Lakers approach is go to the Chiefs. The LeBron Heat approach is go to the Chiefs. The LeBron be a legend approach is go to the Texans.
There's a difference, though.
And I'm joking about.
No, I think
all
the difference is just because Mike is the end of his career.
Yeah,
LeBron did it to get his first one.
Yeah, I know Mike likes LeBron. I'm more of a Jordan, Kobe guy.
Oh, yeah.
I like Steph Curry more than I like. I'm not saying that LeBron's not a better player career wise, but the in between would be a team, and I don't know what the interest level there would be either. It would be a team like the Lions. Imagine him and Amon-Ra St. Brown with those running backs and Laporta at tight end. That'd be a dangerous passing game there in Detroit. Big news for them to bring back their OC, by the way.
Yeah,
that was massive.
And I don't know if AG is going to get the Washington gig, but I know I think he's listed as second or third.
If he doesn't, again, you hope he does. If he doesn't, he'll get one next year. But if they bring both those guys back, they could certainly make another run at it.
Yeah, I can see a scenario where Mike stays. I mean, that team seemed to kind of start clicking.
They did.
And obviously they lost to the Lions, but that's the team that could do it.
They were a good football team down the stretch. Baker kind of seemed like rejuvenated Mike. Mm-hmm. Tom they had their Super Bowl run, but that wasn't like that was the guy to help Mike put up massive numbers. And you saw that jump, and it's because Baker seemed like he targeted him, and he did certainly attack it down the field. So I'd like to see Mike go. Frankly, if I had to pick, I would pick the realistic ones that it sounds like. I'd love to see him, obviously, in Houston.
All right, let's hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, we'll do a little Aggie football talk. We'll get into that. Basketball will come up as well. Got a lot to get into. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
plane.
TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy, we kind of analysis of the positions, but one of the parts that I wanted to get into this hour was the size difference, especially in the defensive backfield. They were undersized, and that was a position of weakness last year. They've upgraded, but they've also upgraded the way they look.
Yeah, first of all, it's hard not to when you add that many people. And you just say, here's like 10 more guys. It's gonna look better, in terms of the physicality and the look of the position. But I do think that was by design too. They weren't too small back there when you had Damani Richardson back there, but I don't think the size was their big holdup last year necessarily. But I think when you come in and look at the position, I think Bryce Anderson might be one of your best, players in that secondary on your defense next year. But he's not big. He's a small safety. Jared Kerr is a small safety. Dalton Brooks, I wouldn't call him. He's a little bit big, but he's not a big safety. So they lost some of that. Elko had guys like Leon O'Neal, Antonio Johnson. He had obviously Damani. There was some size back there. I do think he's trying to upgrade the speed back there as well. I do think that was a liability at times for them. So you've got, sometimes it's hard to find both, and they're looking to have the big guys that can play fast as well. Antonio Johnson being kind of a perfect example of that. But they certainly went out there and added a lot of size. When you look at Saunders, when you look at DeRicky Wright, who's the third safety? Trey Jones. Trey Jones looks like he's 27 years old. DeRicky Wright might be close to 6'5", and then Saunders is, what is he, 6'3 plus, 220 pounds. So they added a ton of size at safety. That was by design. That was deliberate. They did that on purpose, and they addressed the need there to get bigger at safety. And I think when you look at what they added at corner, and then you look at Jaden Hill from Florida, and as much as he's played in the nickel spot, I think what they've done is they've given Mike Elko and Jay Bateman a lot of flexibility. When you look at those body types, they're so far all over the spectrum. It's given them flexibility of, like, you look at guys like Wright and Saunders, who I mentioned, like, I think they can utilize them in certain alignments, certain defensive calls, have them play closer to the line of scrimmage, give them a little more physicality against the run if they need it, give them bodies to bang those tight ends and the tight ends and if there's a slot receiver you want to get physical with on the inside, to be able to do that. So I like the versatility they're going to have with these different sized safeties, and they needed to add size back there. They were running the risk of getting too small. Jacoby's not a real big safety either. He's one kind of like Dalton Brooks. He's not small. He's certainly not like you wouldn't go, man, those are big safeties. I don't know that they even had one on campus.
When you evaluate coaches, Billy, yourself, right? If you had your own metrics, how much weight do you put on the most recent season or the entire body of work? There's a reason that I'm asking you this.
Wait, say that again.
When you're evaluating a coach, right? If we were to say, who are the top 16 coaches in the SEC, do you look at the most recent season with a heavier emphasis? Do you look at the body of work? Is it maybe a combination of the two? There's a reason I'm asking you.
It's a combination. I would weigh more towards the body of work, and I would, unless that most recent season was just like, this guy's just skyrocketing. But I would still, like, if you're taking like a guy like Eli Drinkwitz, right? He's had one good year. Mm-hmm. It was really good last year. It wasn't incredible. For their standards, it was really good. It's like Lane Kiffin when he had that 10. It's really good. But I'm not ranking those guys above the Kiffins and the Kirby Smarts of the world. And if there was a guy that – Jimbo would have been an interesting one because you'd have had 3 seasons of subpar. So with each one, you start to fall, and that starts to outweigh your body of work. Early on, when people were putting people ahead of Jimbo, any time you put anybody besides Saban or Kirby, and I know there's going to be like an exception, but if you would try to do that and put them ahead of Jimbo Fisher, like, your boy Barit Salih, he started bagging on Jimbo from the start. When Jimbo got to A&M, he was easily a top 10 coach in the game and probably a top 5 based on what he'd accomplished.
Sure.
You could try to poke holes in it or not. If you did, you were hating on, because the results were the results, and he had that one bad season on the way out. You were going to put too much into that one season versus the results. After his first year here, he got a very high grade. Second year, grade went down a little bit. Third year, grade was at an all-time high. So after that third year, anyone that put him out of the top 3, 4, no worse than 5,
had an agenda.
You were just anti-Jimbo. You weren't predicting the future, because they had just come off, again, like I said, 9-1. That would have been 12-1 in another season. They were recruiting at top, well, at that point,
number one
level, the following class. So sometimes the body of work, it takes a long time to chip away at it and start moving those guys down the list. I don't know if there's a guy in the SEC that fits that bill right now.
Well, what about Sark? Because before this past year, 500 career coach, right? I believe that was the number. He had a great year, no doubt. But he's ahead of certain folks that I'm curious. They're trending in that direction. There's no doubt about that.
I think he's doing a nice job there. I think, as is always the case, that Texas is. They're not overhyping it. Look, you went to a playoff, but you see that record of number of top 25 wins he has at Texas in 3 years. Is it 2?
Yeah.
And you look at them last season, and I think they get all the credit in the world for beating Bama, and they went to the college football playoff. But you look at who they played in that bowl game, and if anyone wants to say, well, that team beat A&M, and they beat A&M by a touchdown with A&M playing the D team. Like, I watched that Oklahoma State team. That's a bad football team.
Yeah.
And that's who they beat for the championship. They lost to Oklahoma, and I don't care what the final scores. I know they had a shot at the end zone. They were controlled by Washington throughout that football game. And had the guy not gotten hurt with a couple minutes left, it's not even dramatic there at the end. Washington was the better football team that day. They look like the better football team, period. So in 3 years, what I would ask if I was putting together such a list and I was trying to rank Steve Sarkisian, I would say, how many games has he coached in the last 2 seasons, and really even the last 3, where he hasn't had more talent on the field than who he's played? It's a very small number. It's a very small number, and no one can deny that. Then the second thing I would ask is, what games of note has he won in 3 years as the coach? It hadn't been a bowl game, and it's 2.
Bama.
It's Bama. It's OU, but that OU win to me was a bad Oklahoma team. That was a
like 2 years
horrific
ago.
Oklahoma team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they 6-6 Oklahoma
Mhm.
team or something like that, 7-6. So again, I go back to, forget about rivalry. What games of note has he actually walked off the field a winner in 3 years? And I think there's one of them in 3 seasons. So where would I rank him? I go back saying I think he's done a good job. I think he's figured a lot out in his third stint. I think he's got a hell of a lot. He is the best NIL-equipped coach in college football. NIL, portal, all that. Like, it's, we hear money is no object. And this is not a complaint, because I think A&M's way up there too. And thankfully so. And we've said that. A&M and Texas were going to be the haves. A lot of people are going to be have-nots. Texas, there's not a coach with a better NIL support system than Sarkisian. I mean, it's just factual. Now, with that said, I think he's done a good job of coaching. Where do they have him ranked in the SEC?
4th.
Behind, who's third?
Third would be Lane Kiffin. So
who's second?
Brian Kelly.
Okay. And okay, so to me, Brian Kelly.
Kalen DeBoer's fifth.
Brian Kelly has done a better job. Okay, I would put Kalen DeBoer ahead of Steve Sarkisian, and I wouldn't think twice about it. Kalen DeBoer has gone on the field and whipped his ass 2 years in a row and beat the dog out of him. And by the way, outcoached him 2 years in a row with Washington talent. Okay, they've got Penix and they've got these receivers. They developed those guys in their system, particularly.
Yeah.
That was Penix has been there a couple of years now. But Kalen DeBoer's career track record at every single level he's been at, and then you combine it with a playoff berth at Washington, where they were not playing teams with inferior talent to them week in and week out like Texas did, and then they dusted Texas and Sark 2 years in a row. That's a no-brainer. Kalen DeBoer should be 4. Brian Kelly should be 2. Lane Kiffin ahead of Sark?
I think so.
I guess so. I mean, sure. Because of this, he's had 2 good years to Sark's 1. I don't think he's had a lot of success at his other stops other than maybe FAU. But here's the thing. Even though he's working the portal, that's not a negative. It's what's happening on the field. Lane Kiffin is winning more games that he's having to go out there, and they're not as
talented.
Either they're not as talented or they're level playing field.
Well, this year may be different for them.
It might be. But with Sark, he's going out in that Big 12, and they're most weeks they've got like so much talent. It's like you're going to have to play bad to lose. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin don't have that luxury. So I'm okay with Sark at 5. I'm not okay with him ahead of DeBoer.
Well, the interesting part, this is
6.
Saturday, Hugh Freeze.
I would actually you can't overlook what Freeze did at Liberty. You'd be overlooking that. I mean,
but you can't overlook what he did last year at Auburn. That wasn't that impressive.
No, it wasn't impressive at all. I think I don't mind either way on those two. But look,
you're going to mind one of these.
I think Sark I would probably put Sark above Freeze right now, just looking up. I've got questions about Freeze still in terms of can he do it again.
Heupel at 7. Don't care. I think this is where it gets interesting. Brent Venables was at 8 on this list. Above Elko.
Elko should be ahead of Brent Venables.
Yep.
I'm not so sure. I
and by the way, Eli Drinkwitz, I haven't even mentioned him yet.
Yeah, Eli Drinkwitz should be ahead of Venables. What has Venables done as a head coach? I mean, what was their record?
They won 10 game last year's. Why did I say it like that?
10 game last year's. 10 game last year's. You just took the S and you moved it from games to year. They won 10, but
they lost 2 games on the road.
And who'd they lose to?
By combined 8 points.
Who'd they lose to?
It doesn't say here. It just says
they lost to Kansas, and they lost to Oklahoma. That I think they lost to that bad Oklahoma State team. Did they? Yeah,
they did.
I watched OU last year. Ain't nobody scared of Oklahoma. Arizona kicked the crap out of them. They lost to Kansas, and they lost to that Oklahoma State team that we watched firsthand. Oklahoma was not good last year. I would go back and I would ask you, who did OU beat? Who has Venables beat in 2 years? He's got 1 win. It was over Texas. In 2 years as a head coach, he's accomplished nothing, really. I would not to put him ahead of even Drinkwitz with what he's managed to do as a head coach, and even Heupel for that matter, for what he did at UCF and Tennessee.
Yeah.
So I would move Elko up.
Elko here on this list is 10. Drink is at 9.
Yeah, the Elko Drink one's interesting. Like, I think Drinkwitz is good. I think he's underrated. I think this year people are finally catching on that the dude's a good coach and program builder, just because he's a little bit he's different than he doesn't look like your cookie cutter football coach. Different, but kind of like the Mike McDaniel at Miami. He just he's outside the box from just what he looks like, the way he talks, the way but Nobody talks more crap than Drinkwitz, by the way, other than Kiffin in the SEC, it seems like. I mean, those two are the two biggest mouths in the league.
The interesting part about lists like this at this point of the year is how things change so much. Sam Pittman 2 years ago, right? He was that name. Billy Napier was a name there. People were like, he's going to change Florida, right? Yet they're the last two on this list.
It's just like politics in college sports and in sports in general. Like when you hear so much of a certain push, sometimes you believe it and you don't even know why. And you just think it's true and you don't even know why. Like, what was it the other day with A&M that I kept hearing? And I was like, guys, well, part of it was Texas. And the Aggie fans were talking about just how good the Longhorns were and and I was just like, man, like, you're buying into it now. They've lost in 2 years almost every game they've played against equal or greater competition. Almost every one. If you look at Sarkisian in the last couple of years and you said, and look, this is not a Jimbo argument. Jimbo Fisher's fired. So don't hear what I say and then turn it around on A&M, because by firing the coach and paying that buyout, you've acknowledged that what happened wasn't near good enough and it was unacceptable. So it's factor A&M out. Just in the last 2 years, they played Washington twice. They played one Oklahoma team that was a 10-win team. The other was, like we said, 6-7. I'll even give it a second OU game. They played TCU a year ago when they were national finalists. They played Bama twice. Who else have they played that you would call good? I think Oklahoma State the year before. Their record in those type games is like 2-7. And that counts. That counts a win over a 500 OU team, and it's like 2-7. So don't get brainwashed, is what I'm saying. And so on these coaching rankings and stuff, they brainwashed a lot of people on Sammy Pittman because they wouldn't stop talking about him.
Right.
They wouldn't stop. They brainwashed a lot of people on Napier because Florida's a national championship program, and everybody bought in on the hire. You know, I don't think there was a lot going on at Louisiana Lafayette to make you just so sure that he was going to walk in there and start rolling through the SEC. So you got to be careful not to be brainwashed. And it's also, by the way, why I'm okay with Mike Elko where he's at. It's why I'm okay with Connor Wigman where he's at in these preseason rankings, because I think their upward mobility is actually tremendous even in year one. I think they can both, the head coach and the quarterback, and it's got to go hand in hand. If Connor, can stay healthy and play well, and I wouldn't even say pick up where he left off, because I think he was going like this and just kind of skip a little bit of this process and make that jump, which I believe he can under Colin Klein. Do that, and I think Wigman, Elko, and the A&M program can make a big jump in year one in terms of perception and where they're viewed as heading.
Yeah. All right, let's hit a break. Right now, caller number one, we're going to give you a free car wash from Aggieland Express Car Wash in South College Station off of William D. Fitch in Greens Prairie. They're Aggie-owned and operated with the friendliest staff and a personal touch. They offer a monthly membership, but we're going to give the first caller a free car wash right now from Aggieland Express in South College Station, 979-693-1150. As you know, Billy, I've spent a lot of time in hospitals the last couple of weeks, and I got to catch up on some TV viewing as, you just sit there kind of waiting. Finished up the terminal list. Loved it. I'm all in. Might be a Navy SEAL one day.
I like shows like that.
Yeah.
I'm always a sucker for a good military drama.
It's a really good show. And
they
they're
must be
doing a
easy
prequel.
to do, too, because it feels like there's like one every 4 months. That
Yeah,
comes
but
out.
they're not always good, though. That show was done really well. That show, I was very happy with that show. I want to ask you about the Tennessee investigation. It seems like the NCAA is like, hey, 2 of the 3 teams they've investigated are SEC teams. What is it? Florida State, Florida, now Tennessee. A sign of things to come, but Tennessee's trying to slap them down.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what success they have. And initially, everybody was like, "Oh, they'll be able to do it. It's the end of the NCAA again." They're racing to convince you. It's just like that was the hot take of it all. That was that Tennessee was going to smack down the NCAA. The NCAA wouldn't exist without these schools. It's their choice to have them. Yada yada. I think the NCAA has a little more teeth than they think. I do think the end game, the end of the road for the NCAA is within sight. I don't know if it's necessarily this Tennessee. I don't know if it's necessarily this Tennessee one that's going to end it, though, like everyone told me would happen 2 days ago. Now you can see people starting to walk it back.
Yeah.
I think they're going to go after plenty of schools. They could come after A&M. They could go after Texas. They could go after LSU. They go after Bama. Now that you don't have Nick Saban presiding over there, it seems like the perfect time for them to swoop in and try to make an example of the Crimson Tide. Or they could go after Ole Miss, USC. Any of these programs that you hear are playing, the NIL, the halves in the NIL game. They're going to go after everybody. They're going to fine-tooth comb everybody. And, so it could be anyone. Eventually, what's their deal? I mean, they're going to go after every school that's having success in this kind of even though they claim it is, it appears to be pretty unregulated across states, conferences, this NIL structure, this landscape that they've done nothing as it evolved and morphed into what it is. And I know it happened very quickly, but you could see this coming and paying the athletes for 20 years now, going all the way back to, the Ed O'Bannon stuff. They didn't adjust. This is their fault. And now it feels like they're going to take it out on every program they can. With that said, those people that think it stops here, this Tennessee.
It starts here.
Plowman, what was her name? Plowman or
something like that.
Drew this line in the sand, and that's it. And they're not gonna take it anymore. And the rest of college football is going to come around and say, "You're right, we're not taking it anymore." I don't think we're there yet. And I think Tennessee's. Everybody says the NCAA's got a fight on their hands. I agree, but I think you got to realize Tennessee has a fight on their hands too.
But I wonder how they're picking programs. Like, what's Tennessee? Like, because I feel like all these mistakes are.
And look, you're a fool if you think they haven't in the last few years come around A&M. You'd be very naive to think they haven't. Why? Because of that $30 million rumor, that $30 million class. So, who's at Florida? Very high-profile quarterback thing, recruitment out of high school, $10+ million, Jalen Rashada.
Mm-hmm.
Nico at Tennessee, same type thing. Like rumors of $10+ million to a high school. So rumors of $30 million. They're going to go after like the ones where there's everybody except Arch Manning.
Apparently.
And some of those, high profile signees. But I'm kidding about Arch, but I'm not kidding about they're going to, the teams that are having the most success in NIL, that's who they're going to go. They're going to go and see if they can find something. And if they can. And in particular, though, I think it's going to be these really high profile, alleged high dollar deals that are bringing high school players to college campuses. In other words, if it's rumored that X player is asking for $6 million a year, $5 million plus a year, and then that player ends up at your school, they're going to look into it, especially if it's really talked about all throughout the media, because that's where the whole concept of, they recruited that kid with $3, $5, $10 million out of high school. And there's a lot of evidence to say that's what they did to get him there. Then they start digging around. Then if they find out about a plane ride, or if they find, then it all starts rolling.
Nick just reminded me, Dan Quinn going to the Washington Commanders. AG is going to have to wait a little bit longer.
That's okay. It's all about, look, you know what AG needs to do? Freaking one of my favorite Aggies of all time, and still this day. You know what AG needs to do?
Go win next year?
No. I mean, that always helps, but he won this year. Walk down the hall, go talk to Dan Campbell, your old college teammate, your head coach. Say, damn, man, if he even is. Damn, it's frustrating. I was in on so many of these jobs. Because that guy can tell you.
Me too.
Be patient. It'll come. And sometimes in this game, the best come to those who wait. Maybe going to the Washington Commanders and where that franchise has been lately, maybe that's not the best place for a young coach to start his head coaching career. Maybe it'll be somewhere else. For Dan Campbell, he was turned down by, he interviewed, I think, for 5, 6, 7 jobs. Didn't get them. He landed in Detroit. There's not a more perfect fit. And look what's happened. Yeah. So for AG, it's coming. I know it's frustrating to have multiple chances in a year and not get it. But everyone I've talked to in that league said it's damn near a certainty he's getting a head job. It's a matter of when, not if. And probably felt like it was going to be this year. But you know what? I don't know who the Cowboys go hire as their DC. And I don't know how they felt about Dan Quinn by the end of the year. I know at some point in the year they were all raving about how great he was, certainly. And when you're talking about next season, when the Lions keep both their coordinators, the Cowboys lose Dan Quinn, maybe that just solidifies Detroit up in that top. I called it a top 3, top 4, right? And it changes every year. People are going to come in there, but it's the Niners. And then I thought it was the Lions and Cowboys. And probably the Packers seem like they're coming up. Who knows? Do they get better on defense without Dan Quinn, or do they get worse? TBD.
Yep. Billy, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate you coming in. As a reminder, Senior Bowl Saturday, East-West Shrine game tonight. A bunch of Aggies playing on that. We'll keep you guys updated as the week progresses. Let's hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, we're going to have the Fan Show guys in here. But let's do this. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with that and much, much more here on TexAgs Radio. Get the maroon Kool-Aid ready. It's time for the Fan Show.
Fan Show.
Fan Show brought to you by Girard Construction, custom home builders for the Brazos Valley. Since 2002, they don't just build homes, they build relationships. Learn more at girard-construction.com. Royce Hickman, hello.
Hey,
How
good
you
to
doing,
be
buddy?
with you. Howdy.
Howdy. Son Turner, what's up, buddy?
Howdy.
How are you doing, neighbor?
Excellent.
Good
Excellent.
stuff. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Caitlin's got the first question of the day for the crew. Caitlin?
Hey guys, how are y'all?
Go easy on us, okay?
I'll go easy, super easy. Simple question, first one. What's on your mind? What's on your mind today?
Who wants to take it first? Sutton, you?
I can go.
Let's go.
I was thinking about this as we've looked at the poor performance based on expectation of almost every major sport that we have here, especially lately with Buzz. I really had high hopes that this would work out. And I started thinking about, like, if at TexAgs we had seen lots of turnover over the last 12 years, and you had seen low online response, low viewership, poor performance, you would blame Billy, because he, like, ultimately makes all the decisions.
Sure.
We've not seen that, just the opposite. I mean, Dalton's still here, like, teams things growing, numbers are up, lots of wins at the TexAgs. We apply that same leadership model to across the street. Incredible amount of turnover. President, 3 ADs in 6 years. Head football coach, 2 extensions, extremely expensive extensions. And at some point in time, you look and go, who's the leader? And so to me, I just have really looked at that from a standpoint. I truly believe that everything rises and falls with leadership. And so at some point in time, some of the bonehead decisions that have been made and the poor performance needs to be at the chancellor's feet. And so any other organization, that's who you look to when you have poor performance. But for some reason, we blame it on the AD, we blame it on the head coach, we get a new head coach. But the overall lack of consistency like we've had at TexAgs, I mean, it's a great example, I think is partly due to our chancellor. And I know most people can't comment about that, so I'm just a fan, so I can say those types of things.
Well, some would argue with you, like, hey, they lost their radio host a couple years back.
No,
the show's been
2
rocked.
radio hosts in, 20 years? Hey, that's pretty great consistency.
Yeah. Royce, what's on your mind?
Yeah. Well, I just would say one thing. I'm a big fan of Mark Welsh over there.
Yeah.
That's in there now. And you spend very much time with him. You realize why he was the highest-ranking Air Force officer we had in the country. But I have 3 things, all related to interviews that you've had recently.
I like this.
Okay.
I think I like this. Where
Okay.
This is
Well,
going.
number 1 was your interview with Schlossnagel. No, let's go Pat Henry. Start with Pat Henry. And hard to believe, but tomorrow and Saturday are the last indoor track meets that we have this year.
Like that.
It went like that. It really did. And the great facility. If you get a chance, you need to go out there.
That's amazing.
And number 2 is your interview with Jim Schlossnagel, which I mentioned to you before was really very good and very interesting. And baseball season's just 2 weeks away from tomorrow, the 16th, McNeese, and so I'm ready for that. And then I had to talk about Tommy Moffitt's interview yesterday.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Oh, my gosh. If you don't want to feel good about Aggie football, if you don't want to feel good, don't look at that interview.
You'll be all back in.
Oh, you will be.
Yeah,
The depth of what he does. And I have my granddaughter's married to a strength and conditioning coach. So I've enjoyed my conversations with him. Those guys, if they're really good, can do so much. And, what is it, August 31st, Notre Dame? So,
I went and worked out after hearing the Tommy Moffitt.
You have to,
I was like, let's go.
Yeah. And what you'd love to say is, hey, can I come and just sit off to the side and participate a little bit? But that guy was incredible. And I honestly, I bought in that we're going to see improved performance because of him.
There's no substitute for discipline, no matter what your level is, right? If you put in the work and you put in the right work and you're held accountable, and I think accountability is the big thing when it comes to your strength and conditioning coach.
Well, it'd be cool if you, especially with your knowledge of of training and strength and conditioning. If you could do more interviews with him throughout the year, just because I think it would, because most of us don't get a view of that part of the program, and his busiest time is coming up in the springtime.
Yep.
You know, when everything's going on, in the summertime, when the kids. And I just think it would be really interesting to, especially with all of his knowledge and all the players that he's trained. Like, that guy's amazing.
If somebody's listening and they want to sponsor an awesome weekly, bi-weekly, or bi-monthly segment, hit up Nuño at TexAgs.com. We got an idea because I'd love to have him in here. It's selfishly so I can learn, and also because like he makes, like what you said, he makes me want to go be better.
Yeah.
And if 18 to 22-year-olds or 18 to whatever year olds are have that in them every morning where they want to be better, this program's going to be a much better spot.
Well, one thing I love that he said yesterday is I'm up front with them. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest. Any coach that comes in here and talks to me, I'm going to be honest about everything. So they know that there's no slacking or they're going to pay a price.
Think about that. In a world of NIL,
Yeah.
where you almost have to lie to kids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I want you here. You're so great. You're a 5-star. I'm going to, you could be late to practice. For somebody to be like, I don't care if you're a 5-star or a 1-star. If you want to get out, get out. Like, I don't know if I got so loud there. But, like, at the end of the day.
That's Tommy Moffitt right there.
Hey, was he talking to us? We need to leave.
Hey, there's somebody, I can't take credit for this, Moffitt for profit, and that profit means wins, guys.
No,
I like
good.
that.
It's really good.
All right, let's talk a little basketball for a second. We'll get back to football, but let's get back to basketball. I'll start off or move on to basketball. I want you guys to give me a 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. Your confidence meter, Royce, you start us off.
Are we talking girls or boys?
We're going to start with boys. We can do girls too.
All right.
Where's your confidence meter for the A&M men's basketball team to make the tournament? 1 low, 5 highest.
Okay. Well, I'm going to remind you, when I was here a couple weeks ago, I said they'd beat LSU because I'm an optimist. So I don't know if I can go a 5, but I definitely am a 4+.
Wow.
Yep. I just believe
Get the maroon Kool-Aid. Let's go.
Well, I think Buzz will get things turned around. I think this has been a good week for them to have off. Some people said, no, they had this bad taste in their mouth. But sometimes that can be the inspiration that gets you, because that's not you.
Okay.
So I think they can make it.
I'm going to guess yours is not as high as a 4.
So
knowing you,
it's 4.5, so I'll take the half.
Okay.
All right?
You don't think they're making the tournament?
No. I just think that if we're on the bubble, we'll slide off the bubble because our past history. Like, there's not been a situation that I remember us being on the bubble and we just squeak in. No. We squeak out.
Easy to eliminate.
And I continue to go to the games. I continue to see that it's all up to Wade, and nobody else is a supporting cast. I have no idea where Henry Coleman went and his offense went, but it's gone. And so, and I just don't see us. When you look at our schedule, what's coming up, I just don't see us making the tournament.
It's sad. Now, what do they have to do to change your mind here over the next 10 days? Let's just keep it short, all right? 10 days. That includes probably 3 games.
So the first 6 to 7 minutes of the game, come out and play it like they play the end of the game. That's it. LSU, horrible. Like, our starts are like we're still asleep.
Yep.
And so maybe Buzz needs to go out and play them hard before the game even starts, because our starts is what's killing us this season.
Well, Arkansas game's a perfect example of that. Down 20 points, and they have a great comeback, but you get in a big hole, it's hard to overcome.
No.
Yeah, and I agree with that. They have got to come out and start faster. I do think part of the issue is they've got some folks playing hurt that maybe aren't at full strength yet, and they may not be in the kind of condition yet because of being hurt and all.
Yeah.
And that's all unfortunate. But Wade Taylor, it was interesting you were talking about how when he scores a lot of points, they lose.
But he has to score a lot of points to keep them in games.
I know. I understand. Yeah. But what was it, Batman and Robin? Mm-hmm. They need a Robin.
They need a Justice. No, actually, they need something that works.
And
they need the Avengers.
That line.
They need a bunch of guys right now because it can't just be the top 2 guys.
No.
I do want to give you a chance to give me your confidence meter on Aggie women's basketball.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Joni Taylor. I think that she's an amazing leader. It seems like we're a year away with this team. We have so many new pieces. Now, I would probably say like 3.5 with the rest of the season with turning around. I mean, they played well at home, but they can't just do that for the rest of the season. They've got to pick up some wins. And so I'm much more positive, and I don't know if it's just because I got so much maroon Kool-Aid for Joni Taylor, and I just really want her to be successful here.
I do too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of hers as well. And, we talked about a lot of the new coaches we have are sliding in and fitting in and doing well. Because for a coach to be successful here, they have to understand the culture and buy into what we do and how we are here. I don't understand some of the difficulties they've had winning on the road.
Yeah.
And the one game they've won on the road was a nail biter.
Yep.
But I would agree 3.5.
Yeah.
That's about where I am.
And it'd be amazing for her, like to go from where we were this time last year to be able to make the tournament. Would be amazing for her.
Yeah, it would be a real
jolt
for next year.
Totally.
Too. Yep.
All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back more with the Fan Show guys here on TexAgs Radio. It is brought to you by Gerard Construction. More here on TexAgs. We're back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It's time to end the day with Double Dave's. Caller number 12-979-693-1150 will hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or one large topping pizza from Double Dave, serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on the way. It is the Fan Show presented by Girard Construction. We return to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Caitlin Torrens there. Before you get to your question, Caitlin, can you give us a little bit more insight to the rain jacket you're wearing?
Yeah, today I am wearing some vintage A&M gear.
Show the people.
This was actually my dad's, Chris Torren. He was head yell leader in class of 97, so passed it down to me. Don't know if he can still pull it off, but yeah, that's what I'm rocking
You don't know if he can
today.
still pull it off. What do you mean? I'm sure he can still do the yells. Of course he can.
No, I've asked him to so many times. He won't do them anymore.
No?
Nope. Maybe we could ask him to get on here and do it.
Get him in studio.
Hard to say no to
Bring
that.
Dad to work day.
That's what OB's here for.
He would love that. I'm sure
I'm
my
sorry.
phone is about to get blown up with texts from
Grandpa
him.
OB, I'm sorry, not Dad. Kidding, Olin. All right, I know you had a question.
No, he's not.
I'm sorry. Royce, you're young, all right? You act young. How about that?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, question for y'all. If y'all were going to give Elko a grade on his recruiting, the portal class, transfers, what would that look like?
I see you guys thinking.
To me, it's almost a perfect score. Almost. Terry Bussey is the perfect score. So that's the cherry on the top on Tuesday. If he can somehow not allow LSU to get Terry Bussey, it's a perfect, absolutely marvelous coming in and saving type of program and not having to do a total rebuild and having next season to be a total loss.
Yeah, I think when a coach comes in like Elko did, everything just is in turmoil, and he so quickly got it back in control. And so I give him an A, and to be honest with you, about everything he did. And I told you before, I think he can't be sleeping more than 2 hours a night. And I, we talked about Tommy Moffitt. There's a hire that he brought in here, and everything you look at that he's done or he's touched has worked out well or looks like it's going to work out well. Yeah, and I realize you still got to do it on the field. Don't misunderstand. Yeah. But, boy, I'm excited from what I've seen from him, and I give him an A.
And if Elijah Robinson had stayed, you would say, well, Elijah kept the team together. No. Like on top of losing all these people, we also lose Elijah Robinson that was kind of the glue, and he still held it together, which was amazing.
The ultimate grade will be given at the end of next season.
Right.
But for where our confidence meter is and where the direction, to me, winning the offseason isn't just the personnel. It's the vibe around the program. It's the changes. What was your trajectory 6 months ago? What is it now?
Yeah.
And I think they're back in the conversation, a legit conversation of, hey, why not double-digit wins for this team?
Right.
Why not? I mean, we got to see how it plays out.
And it'll help us with 2025 class, big time. Of what he did over the past 2 months will help us with the 2025 class.
I got a question for you guys, and I don't know if it's fair to ask, all right? But I asked because Evan Stewart goes to Oregon, and then I looked at his numbers compared to Ja'Day Walker, and they were very similar. So my question, can Ja'Day Walker maybe be one of those 1A wide receivers in your eyes?
Yeah, I think he can. I think he can be like a Josh Reynolds. If he's Josh Reynolds, man, we're in great shape.
We're in great shape. Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know enough about him overall, but I think you bring him in here with people like Tommy Moffitt around him,
Colin Klein's offense.
I think you're going to see players performing much better than they ever have before.
And the only reason this became a topic is because when I looked at Evan Stewart's stats last year, and look, I wish Evan stayed. I do.
I do too.
It may be better with him gone. I don't know. We'll see. But you compare his stats to Walker's, they're basically the same stats.
Yeah, but availability is the greatest ability. And so when he doesn't play when Evan doesn't play a couple of games,
So
does it really matter?
Maybe not Ja'Day Walker. Maybe he's not that 1A guy. But why not Moose?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've seen Moose make
incredible catches.
With his sleeves on, we've seen some amazing catches from him.
I bet you sleeveless is pretty good too, though.
I don't know if it actually matters. Go figure.
I don't think it matters with him. And I love the crowd yelling out Moose when he does something.
Do the Aggies beat Florida this weekend? You had
I'm
a 4 to 5.
I'm an optimist, so I'm saying yes.
4.5. Sudden.
So one of our teams lose this weekend. That's what I'm worried about, and I don't know which one it's going to be. Because I'm very worried about this weekend with both of our basketball teams.
The thing that worries me about Florida is they're built so similar, but they score more. They're this number 2 in rebound. Like they're legit.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing that you talked about earlier in the show was they hit more shots, and they're about as good offensive rebounder team as we are.
Right. But coming to Rita's got to mean something, guys.
Yeah.
It's blackout. Wear your black clothes.
Well, the crowd's been doing their job, in my opinion, out there.
Yeah, they've been coming. Yeah. This is a big, big one. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Always good to be with you. Thank you for having us.
Good to be with you.
Enjoyed being with Sutton
Not
here.
good to be you, but good to be with you. I just learned.
We understand.
Tú sabes. Yo hablo español. All right, that's going to do it here for TexAgs Radio on a Thursday. Tomorrow on the program, John Harris joining us. We'll have Mark French in studio with us. I think we've got Aaron Torres tomorrow because we did the old switcheroo with Billy. That's going to do it for the program. We will see you all mañana.